Get a little sunburn on your nose.
Yeah, burr all over. I was not ready.
I made Grace bring 3 cans of sunscreen.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 4, 2025 Litchfield School Board meeting. The time is now 5:30. Call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are down a board member tonight. Mr. Plansky is on business and will not be joining us this evening, so we have a 4-member board tonight. Any changes to tonight's agenda? Nope. All right. Moving into our consent agenda, any board members like to move anything off of consent into our standing agenda this evening?
No thanks.
Okay. We'll move forward into summary of non-public actions from May 21st, 2025. Ms. Ames motion to approve the May 7th, 2025 non-public meeting minutes. Mr. DeWitt seconded that motion. That motion passed 3-0-2. Ms. Ames motion to approve the leave of absence as presented for Renee Fauci, special education teacher at LMS. Mr. Shoemaker seconded that motion. That motion passed 5-0. Ms. Ames motioned to approve the nomination as presented for Jennifer Mitchinson, principal at Campbell High School. Mr. Shoemaker seconded that motion, and that motion passed 5-0. Ms. Ames motioned to approve the resignations as presented. Mitchell Roy, CHS case manager, Patrick Keefe, CHS English teacher, and Dana Giampalo, CHS assistant principal. Mr. Shoemaker seconded that motion, and that motion passed 5-0. Ms. Ames moved to adjourn the non-public session at 7:43. Mr. Plinsky seconded that motion, and that passed 5-0. And with that, we'll move into the presentations and recognitions tonight, and I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
Thank you. So I want to welcome up to the small table here Ms. Jennifer Mitchinson, who we recently hired as the next principal at Campbell High School. Jen's just going to give a little overview of herself and welcoming her to the Litchfield School District. So.
Hi, thank you for having me. Well, I already shared that sometimes I like to eat ice cream for dinner, so that's a fun fact. So if you're ever wondering if I want something, it's probably ice cream. I am really happy to be here. I'm really excited to start in a couple weeks and join the Campbell community and the Litchfield community. I grew up in New Hampshire, so I'm very familiar with like the small town New Hampshire. I love it. I grew up in Plastow, so I'm really happy to be back in a nice small community, and that's always been my preference, and I get it. I love it. I'm hoping to move up closer to this area. I don't live too far now, but I am excited to get to know everyone in the community, and from the businesses to the best ice cream spots to what the kids like to do around here, other than typical high school kids that we were talking about. I have a really strong curriculum background, strong with grading and reporting, really kind of pushing rigor in the classroom and helping support instruction, specifically literacy instruction. But math, I think, I understand a structure that you need to help work in the math world as well. So, while I was at Sanborn, I really helped to boost their SAT scores up in the past few years, really by focusing on literacy. When I started, I think that first year, students, that cohort was at like 45% at benchmark, and this year we got our test scores and they were at 65, so I was really happy to see all the kids' growth and looking at their PSAT scores and just seeing the growth of each cohort, but then making some changes in the classrooms to then really push the kids and getting them to feel confident. Looking at if there were places we knew kids were really struggling and floundering, they certainly weren't going to be doing well on any kind of assessment, whether it be the state test or just in the classroom. So do we need to adjust our course offerings to help support our kids just as much as what are we doing instructionally? So it's really been the focus of my work the past 2 years. That was a lot of it. Vocabulary initiative, again, to really support the literacy stuff. So that's about it. I taught English for 9 years. I taught remedial reading for a year. I was a paraprofessional I was a curriculum coordinator for 5, assistant principal for 3. So I'm like, wow, where'd the time go? But so this will be my 10th year in administration. I've kind of seen it all, so I'm just excited to get to know the people of Litchfield. So
Thank you very much. Welcome to the district.
thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
All right, awesome.
I don't know if the board has any questions for Jen. We don't have to drill her, but if you do have any, she is
I
ready
can
to
take
go.
it. I just had ice cream.
I'm just gonna tell you, I think you just jinxed yourself with I've seen it all. I always rise
Challenge accepted.
to the challenge.
Okay. All right. I'll let you know. And if something new comes up, I'll make sure to let you know that. Okay, haven't seen this, and
Hopefully,
You
it'll
have 2
only
principals
positive.
behind you that are smiling.
we are behind her. We're here to support her.
I think the only other thing I would say is like we have a pretty new administration across the board. We're excited. They're all pretty cohesive, so we're excited to have you on the team and kind of assimilate in with them and go running.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really happy to join the team. Everybody, I've met the crew, and it's a good group.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lucky.
Yeah. We're excited to have Jen. Obviously, we're sad to see Jake go. Jake's done some great work at the high school, but we're excited to welcome Jen aboard. I've known Jen in a couple different capacities over the years. It's a small state in education. You get to know people. We were obviously high school principals at the same time as she's been in that role for the past few years. She's wonderful, really bright. I think she's going to do amazing things at Campbell, and I'm so excited to see the work that she does. So, yeah.
Likewise. Welcome again. Thanks for coming tonight.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll turn it over to the nominated Dr. Pooler.
I got for it, just so you know. Ryan just gave it to me. I know, it's so nice of him.
It's by, assimilation.
Right, exactly. Oh my goodness, can you pull that up?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, give me a sec.
Hi everyone, how are you? So I just wanted to share, every year the state receives, the state gives out LEA determinations to every district within the state. So we received ours at the end of April, and I wanted some time to kind of digest it and kind of go through it before I presented it to all of you.
Just going to try to make it bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna need to help us understand this.
That's totally fine. I figured I would. I'm gonna pull it up on my end. So this is essentially, I don't like that one. It's not colored.
Sorry.
It's okay. I
Let me stick to this. It's
like
a little
the
bit
pretty
smaller.
colors on mine.
You can zoom in.
How do
yeah.
I zoom in here?
Click on the,
At the bottom.
The little map. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. There we go.
All right.
Is that better?
So this is essentially a report card for the district, looking at a lot of different areas in the world of special ed, kind of rating us. So when you look at the scores, the lower is better, so it's kind of counterintuitive to what you would think. So the higher the number, that's actually not a good thing to have. So 0, we want to see zeros, we want to see ones. To kind of summarize, because it is, as you said, it's a lot of information, there's different indicators that the state looks at. So like indicator 1 is your graduation rate, indicator 2 is your dropout rate. I'm not going to go through obviously each one of them, but it pulls that data and kind of gives us a rating based on that. There were some areas
Can
that
I just pause you for 1 second?
Yeah.
Just for clarity. This is
Yeah.
the special education
yes,
population.
yes,
correct?
sorry, I didn't clarify that. It's just looking at students that have IEPs.
So when I see 2s on the right-hand side, that's
Yep.
not good.
Yes, the lower the number, the better. It's like golf.
Okay.
I've never played golf, but that's what I've heard. There were some things that you'll see some NAs. Those were taken away statewide. So for the like letter F under area parent survey indicator 8 response rate, there was a low response rate across the entire state of New Hampshire. So they gave us our number but didn't count it as a score. Going forward, they want to include it, but I think it takes time. I did hear from the state this year. For any parents out there that fill out the survey, thank you, that our response rate was already way above what we had last year, so that's a good sign. The same thing with post-school outcomes. A survey is sent out to students that have graduated the year after they graduated from Campbell that had IEPs to kind of see like what they're doing, whether it's college, career, etc. That also had a pretty low response rate, so they didn't count it. But that again was not just for the town of Litchfield, that was also across the state because it was just a low response rate in general. So you'll see that there's four different sections, and then each section has kind of a result, right? So areas that are results-based, the section results says meet requirements, so we have met what we're supposed to meet in those areas. I'll get back to assessment. Compliance, again, is just our indicators, so making sure that we are, our discipline rates are not higher for students with IEPs, that our discipline is even across different races, ethnicities. The disproportionate rate and making sure that, again, making sure that students with IEPs are not disproportionate as far as identification rates. Making sure our child find is done correctly, making sure that our preschool outcomes are good, and then our transition into high school. That we actually did really well, and that also meets requirements. Section 4 is just other things, so a lot of it has to do with our grants and making sure that we are using our grant properly, that we've submitted on time, we've used what we said we were going to use, and that we report out monthly, and that was an area that was good as well. So 3 of the areas we fell in the meets requirements section, which meant that we're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing, and that's a wonderful thing. The area that we fell into the needs intervention category is assessment. As you can see, it looks at a bunch of different things, looking at grades 4, 8, and 11, participation rate being 1, proficiency, making sure that the students with IEPs don't fall below the state, and then the all proficiency is for those students that are significantly cognitively impaired and take the DLM instead of the New Hampshire State Assessment, so it's their alternate assessment. And then the gap proficiency looks at the gap between students with IEPs versus regular ed students, and how big the gap is between their scores on the SAS versus regular ed. That's the area that we kind of fell short on. So then if you scroll, oh, oops, just got rid of it on my computer. Okay, so then if you go down, oh, you have to go all the way down, but sorry.
Nope. What page you want me to go?
2.
That's it.
Yeah, so overall, we fall in the needs assistance category. So it's like a 4 level overall assessment. So you either meet requirements, you need assistance, you need intervention, or you need substantial intervention. So we're in that second category right there of needs assistance because of that one area that fell under needs intervention. When we got this letter, the state kind of advised us of because we fell in this category, what are our next steps and what we were supposed to do. The first was to attend an LEA determination training, which I already went to, that just kind of explains this in further detail, and explains how the state kind of comes up with these numbers and where it's pulled from. The next thing that they will do is in September, should be receiving a survey from them to ask what our next steps are and how we're going to address this particular area that we need the help with. I do know that at the elementary school that with the restructuring of the schedule that they're going to be doing, that there's going to be some more time for special ed teachers to be able to work with students and kind of align things a little bit better than it has been in the past. And really, I know with Dr. Taylor's help in kind of helping the teachers with alignment and with kind of creating more of an assessment culture within the district, maybe placing a little bit more of importance on these tests, obviously not to the point where it's stressing people out, but just, the SAS is important. It's what we're looking at, it's what we're graded on. So kind of hoping to increase the participation rates, because that's really the biggest thing. If you're kind of looking through, like, the participation rate is really kind of not the best.
Can I ask just a question?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Are all 4 areas equally weighted?
Yes, even though there's more parts in each one, but yes, like all 4 are equally weighted,
Okay.
I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So that being said, assessment, testing based, right?
Yep.
Compliance looks like it's discipline, or how do I interpret compliance?
So it's compliance. It's more of, it's less outcome based and it's more of how we report things. So, like, for example, if there's a student with an IEP and they receive some sort of suspension, whether it's in school, out of school, we have to report that. And so it's just making sure, and then they take that and they look at that towards the regular discipline rates for schools or for the district, and making sure that we're not unfairly disciplining students more with IEPs that don't.
Exactly. So say I'm gonna use made-up numbers, but just for simplicity's sake. Say our suspension rate for non-identified students was at 10%, right? Like 10% of the students that didn't have IEPs got suspended over the course of a year. Our number for identified students should be approximately the same. You're given a little bit of wiggle room depending on your total numbers, but say that number was 11% for our identified kids, we would be in compliance because the two numbers are relatively the same. If we had a 10% suspension rate for kids who were not identified and then a 50% suspension rate for kids who are identified, that's way out of whack. So why is that? We would need to drill down on what the reason is for that. Is there some sort of systematic problem, right? Are we not meeting the needs of an IEP? In a bigger school district where you may have more identified kids and especially more kids who have an emotional based disability, they could be getting suspended at a higher rate, and there might be a valid answer for that. That's what this work is to drill down to explain like why that is, right? One of the things, and I know Sarah's going to talk a little bit more about this, that's a little tricky for us is we're a small district. So it can really, if you think of the junior class in the high school, right, we have roughly 90 kids, give or take a couple kids, right? Our identified rate is
20 of them, yeah.
20%, there's 20 of them. That swings. If 5 of them opt out of the SAT, now we have a negative number in terms of participation compared to the identified kids, right? And that's any of the identified, and they don't have to take the SAT, they can opt out if you have a parental opt out and stuff like that. So, but if that number, there's two things. One, if that number is just a flat out percentage of how many are opting out, we have to meet a certain threshold, and then a comparison to our regular rate kids, that kind of threshold as well, that whether they're similar, and those are some of the things you can kind of get dinged on and stuff like that. And one of the things specifically is our participation of identified students in our state testing that was lower than what the state wants in those type of numbers. So that's something we got to work on.
They opted out.
They opted out, yeah, and they didn't take the test. Sometimes they just didn't. The most common reason they didn't take it is an opt-out, right, from a parental opt-out. But it could be a kid was just continuously absent, for example, which may have nothing to do with their identification, may not. It may not. But we never had the opportunity to sit that kid down for testing because the window ended, right? Like, you all have kids in school, you know there's a testing window, but that window then does close. And if we haven't given that kid a test for one reason or another, then they count as a non-test taker in that situation.
Can I ask a question on the assessment piece? What is the time period of the data that they are using? So is this based off of 2024 test results,
Yes.
meaning the SAS testing that was done last year?
Yes,
Not this year?
correct.
Okay.
Am I interpreting the results correctly? So I'm going to pick on compliance again.
Yep, go
Because if
ahead.
I look at compliance, I see a score of 28.5, and I see that as borderline to needs assistance. And if I think about this correctly, if that flips to needs assistance and we're right on the edge, then that flips our overall score from needs assistance to needs intervention. So really, we're like a point away in compliance from our overall score of needs intervention.
Correct.
So we're really close.
Yep. And again, I mean, looking at the same section, Andrew, so the indicator 12, early childhood transition, they got like an 80% score. I can tell you exactly what it is. It's one case. So again, kind of speaking to what Brian's saying, because we have such small numbers, one case can put us in this position. So we're not talking, we're not talking hundreds of cases or things like that, but it's that literally is one case.
So you then have to give explanations on some of these things, right?
Yeah.
That's what you were explaining about one of these things in compliance. So if your explanation is satisfactory, is that the state basically says, okay, we understand, and then we're going to ask you again next year.
Yeah, so that, looking at that same one, so letter E under compliance, with that one particular case, I investigated it, I figured out what happened, I explained it to the state, and they said, okay. I mean, they don't change your score, obviously, but they have, like, okay, we get it, like, that person doesn't work here anymore, that was an error in this, there's the few things involved with that particular case, but I just have to write a letter to explain what happened, and then steps I'm taking going forward to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Gotcha.
So I think I just know this one off the top of my head. So even though it's in a different category, the parental survey rate, right? It's in the first category here. It's letter F here. This is the rate from last spring when we did the special ed survey. So that was percentage of response from our families that have identified students. It's obviously very low there, 0.441%. But it's low across the state. That's not a unique Litchfield thing. But next year, we know this because we can see who's well, Sarah, I can't, but that number is going to be significantly higher because we did some different things to try and get some different responses. Sarah had some suggestions. She sent out direct emails. I put it in my newsletter, different things like that. And now we weren't struggling necessarily in this, but it's an example of taking the information and then applying it to the next year. So our hope is a year from now, when we're here, a number of these things have been addressed and they're not an issue because Sarah's done work connected to it. But we want to inform you of it because it is an important component of her work. And we are close on some of these things. So when we are doing standardized testing, that families understand, like, because I'm putting my high school hat on for a second. We sometimes see students and therefore their families who ultimately are the ones who opt them out of, oh, my student's not going to college, they don't need the SAT, right? So I'm going to opt my kid out so they don't have to sit and take the exam. And that is a great pathway for kids who don't pursue college. I'm pro that, but we still need you to take the SAT because of these type of reasons, right? Like there's an expectation that kids are taking these standardized testing and participating in them because we can get dinged for things if kids are not opting out of it. And it's kind of a tricky situation, like get caught a little bit. Like you don't want to force kids to sit and just do poorly, but like we also need to hit certain benchmarks of participation in these type of
And it
categories.
also goes to like what I talked about when I was presenting the data and we were talking about the PSAT and the SAT and again going back to changing that assessment culture and the meaning and purpose behind the test. Is the meaning and purpose behind the test just sitting to take the test to go to college, or is it to see how did I do as a learner through my high school career? Like if I can track myself from my PSAT scores to my SAT scores and compare like my growth, then I have more purpose for taking that assessment as opposed to just taking it because I want to go to college or not taking it because I don't. Yeah, we just need to fix that mindset.
So how, I guess my question is, because we're talking about like if you know for a fact that your child doesn't want to go to college, like let's say you're at the end of your high school career. How are you going to convince a parent that they should even care at that point? Like,
Great question.
They're
Great question.
done.
It's a great question.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
It's
we
in
don't
that
have a
just-
magic answer, right?
It's again just
Yeah.
trying to change the
It
mindset
is
around
that. Yeah.
assessments.
Yeah.
So to me, it
and
sounds
if you
like
can change it from the beginning, then it might be that the student wants to take
Yeah.
it
Right.
because they want to see how they did. You know what I mean? Like it just there's a lot of we need to change the mindset.
Yeah. So if you don't mind me jumping
go ahead.
I scrolled down to page 9 here because it drills more detail into the particular sections of it that might help with just as we go through this and stuff and just look at these three right here on page 9, which gives you a good summary. So there's a state target which people are trying to hit. The state data of where the collective schools are and school districts are in the state. And we'll just take this first one with reading participation in grade 4 because this is just straight participation. The state has a target at 95%, and this would be identified students taking this in grade 4. Show the data that that we're not meeting that as a state, right? Of grade 4 kids, they're at about 89% there. We did a nice job of that last year, where it looks like all, I'm assuming all because it's at 100. All of our grade 4 students who were identified took the assessment, so we got a 0 for that, which is good. If you look at the second one down, reading participation for grade 8, they again have that 95% threshold that they are shooting for districts to have. The state data there was at about 83%. We at a district were higher than the state data by 11%, right? We were at 94.12. But we fell short of that state target, so we got a point for that, right? So that's how that kind of math kind of goes there. And yeah, that's one
Yeah.
student, right? That's the difference there. Like it's one student opted out to take it or didn't take it for some
So
reason
you
in
can
grade
opt
8.
out, like SATs make sense to me, but like you could opt out of the 4th grade.
You can opt out of SAS,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
They just recently changed the letter, which I shared with all the principals, so that it's not a glaring like opt out. It's very like small and not so prominent, and we do not have to advertise it.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, you did,
I think I
right?
opted out, actually. I was the one that
You're the one,
screwed up.
yeah, you're the one right there. It's you.
Screw this up, man.
I did not, just.
And then the third one on this page is an area where I would say we need to put the most focus,
Yeah,
right?
agreed.
Like, so the state target is 95. This is the SAT grade 11. And we can see as a state, we're nowhere near that, right across the board. Like, I can tell you my previous district, same thing. We got dinged on this particular thing. My district before that got dinged on this type of thing. Like, everyone gets dinged on it. I would be shocked any district that hits that threshold. And we were at 56. So I would like us to, at a minimum, be above the state average. You know, that would be helpful in that. But that is a more significant number. That's not a difference of one kid. You know, that is more than one kid. But again, we're talking like we have a total subpopulation of maybe 20 kids that is making that percentage up of there and stuff. So it's tricky.
I
It's
should
tricky.
know this because we've talked about this
Yep.
before. Do you have to pay for the SAT?
Not the one that's part of the state assessment. So you essentially get one try for free when you do it as part of the state assessment, and then you're welcome to take it as many times as you want after that. So but that has a cost associated to it.
I mean, it just
But
seems
those
like
don't count for us for any state testing reporting purposes.
state target seems a little bit unrealistic in some of these categories.
Well, to me, it seems like this is like.
Sorry, but I'm just I mean, I don't know much about this, but I'm looking at it saying, okay, I mean, if that whole state is 65% and they want 95%, like maybe you should adjust your standard on that one, and because that doesn't seem like that's an achievable number for anyone in the district.
I have a hard time wrapping my head around the SAT one. I mean, the younger kids, obviously, we need to, like, they're still early on in their education, so we need to. I think it's easy. It should be easier to impress upon parents, like, hey, we get it that this is not easy for your kid to do, but it's really important, and we want to set them up for success. But by the time they're in 12th grade, the parents are like, you either you succeeded or you didn't, right? All of you, not the kid, right? Like the kid.
These are actually bad because we can remember back before the SAT was the standardized test in high school. It used to be kneecap and other things way back in the day. These are better participation rates. Like the SAT has helped with that in getting people to participate at the high school level in their state assessment. So while we had a 56th percentile in this particular subgroup here, I would go out on a limb and say that's much better than it was pre-SAT.
Have we seen data that we could compare how many of these kids actually went on to college, like percentage wise?
I think we would have to construct it. Is it possible to do? Yeah, but I don't think it's just something we can pull.
I mean, I
from
think
the
it would be interesting to know because we obviously know that the SAT, the primary reason that people take the SAT is because it's required by most colleges, or was it some point? I don't know
Well,
if
it's coming back
It's coming
now.
back. to
Coming
be a
back, yeah.
requirement.
But
They laxed on it a little bit, and now they're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
I think it would be important for that particular metric, though. I think it would probably be important to understand, like, for our own purposes, how many of these people are taking. Like, are we pandering to, a large portion of people who are not going to college, or are there a large number of people who are not going to college still taking the SAT? Like, I think it might be helpful.
That's a good
I know
question.
you love going
Yeah.
finding data. So.
I really do. You know that already, Matt. Come on.
So we can drill down specifically in the green section or this section too, and you can see the certain subcategories in the area. And we do need to improve on this. I don't want to pretend otherwise.
Yep.
Sarah's been working on this all year, but it is important for you to understand the context of these because you can see like, hey, you're in that need, whatever the need intervention stage
Yeah, in this
is.
category, yeah.
And you're like, oh goodness, but like, yep, that's true, but this is where it's coming from.
I think the other, not to like belabor this for too long, but the other thing that I think would be somewhat interesting is, too late. And we're working on. What'd you say? Too late.
Too late. It's been belabored.
This is what we're here for, right?
It's been belabored.
We haven't. Just wait. I'll go easy on the GMS stuff. Can't distract me. I have ADD. I think it would be interesting to also be able to help figure out how do we tie into like the parents' understanding. Like we need to, and we're kind of working on this with assessment stuff right now. Like we're trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the best way of showing like why this is valuable or how it's valuable, but it's almost like a marketing campaign. Like you have to find a way to
100%.
make it make sense to them because like I'm sitting here and I'm like the SAT thing doesn't make sense.
And it's little things too. I mean,
Yep.
Jen's doing, I don't know if you have any middle schoolers, but Jen and Dan's done other things too, but this is the one in my mind, like the water balloon thing for participation, right?
652 water balloons
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah, exactly. So, the kids I think it was just participation,
No,
right?
it was growth.
Oh, growth. If they show growth in one of the testing areas, then they got a water balloon to throw at, Ms. Grantham and Mr. Peterson. And that's a really large number of growth there, 652 water balloons coming your way. So those,
Math, language arts, and science. So
Yeah.
If they went up in all three, they get 3 to help us with.
yeah. So those type of incentives for kids, I don't know what maybe water balloons would work at the high school too, sorry. But like those type of just little things to help, right? I think that was a huge positive thing at the middle school to help the kids just invest.
I sure hope so.
So, those of you that have kids who are in the middle school, they're talking about their scores. They're I went up 12 points from last year to this year. I went up, like, they know. If you ask them how'd you do on your SAS, they're going to tell me, I got 3 balloons, you're in trouble, or I'm working on it next year, I'll get better next year. So, it's good.
Yeah.
We're excited about it. It's shifting the script.
Yep.
So I totally derailed your presentation.
That's totally fine.
I'm sorry. I don't know what else you want to touch on.
Yeah, I didn't know what else. I mean, I have to do also a follow-up. I think it's by the next time, like, before this comes out again next April, just to talk about what we've done during the year and how we felt that it went. And so it's an area, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's not terrible. And there's definitely areas that we can improve upon, and we'll definitely target that next year.
So if I'm thinking about this right, the next year's report for area H, where it says administration turnover, we should see a 1 there. Right, because of the turnover in the administration.
I don't even know how, hold on, let me look at this one. I thought you were gonna say 1 because you're getting rid of me. Hold on.
No.
And that's
Nice
how we
way to
told
tell me. Thank you so much.
Last year or this year, right, and that's a change in administration.
That would be how Andrew would
We
fire
should get a
someone.
0
Yes.
in.
And thank you.
Yeah,
for-
'cause
Now, they may not count that as one of our categories because they may not have enough data at the state. I'm sure the data, if you look at that particular one, you see NA now because I am speculating there's been so much turnover,
Yeah.
especially
And there
administration.
still is, so
It's not
yeah.
fair to hurt schools about that. But if this comes back next year, if they feel it's an indicator, we would get a 0 on that because, well, we think.
Well, yeah, I thought so until
Sarah
I
It's
sat
Fuller.
down,
this
but
isn't reflecting this administration at all. This is like
This is
correct.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
So I just want to say, this is my 4th year on the board. I don't know that I've ever seen this before. Do you remember
Never.
ever seeing this? So I actually find this to be really helpful information, and I appreciate you sharing it with us, even if it isn't all 100% great news. I mean, I think that's part of how we learn and how we grow, and
Yeah.
so this is really helpful for me, so I appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good snapshot of kind of where we're at and things that we can celebrate and things that we can improve upon going into next year, so.
Sounds good.
Appreciate it. Thank
Yeah,
you for the
no
update.
problem, thank you.
All right, next up is Director of the Year, Ms. Lauren Crowley.
I got my $50 check for winning Northeast Regional. I didn't know that was part of it, so I'm doing it for the money now, just so you know. So, just
You're gonna just compete in every region now?
yeah, I'm just gonna travel around. So I'm here to present a couple of things to you all and have a couple of discussions. As we all are so surprised, we will be ending with a negative balance this year. By my calculations, I'm thinking we're ballparked right around where we were last year, which was about 85,000 in the negative. I'm not thrilled about it. I take it very personally. I know it's nothing we've done, but still. So I have a few ideas and creative solutions to present to you to close that gap a little bit and do everything in our efforts. I've met with Brian and Julie about it. So there's a few points. So first is meal prices. The next is discussing the meal charging policy and discussing implementation of a credit card machine at the high school. So my proposal for the meal charging the meal prices, I'm tired. I've been at work since 6. It's fine. Over the next 2 years, I'm proposing that we increase the lunch prices at Griffin and Middle School by 25 cents each, until each school reaches $4.25 for lunch. The reason I'm proposing this is because with the National School Lunch Program guidelines and portion sizes, graduated pricing does not line up. Barring a couple of items like fruits and vegetables and pasta, it is the same meal across the board. Portion sizes and everything. So for example, the chicken waffles basket, 4 ounces of chicken, 4 ounces of fries, 1 grain with a waffle, which counts as 2 ounces of grain. Same at every school.
So high school kids are getting the same portion sizes as elementary kids?
Correct. So therefore, I know, I don't agree with it either. I just do what they tell me to do. So, in my opinion, why are we, $3.75 versus $4.25? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that was the way because it was explained that the portion sizes were not the same.
Right. In certain aspects. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. I tried arguing this point with other people in the past, and it was dismissed a lot. So I'm here to explain. We do have different items that we use up at the high school, but really at the core of the meal, it is the same meal, barring fruits and vegetables and pasta. The high school can take up to a cup of fruit and vegetable, and the pasta graduates. So it goes 4 ounces, 6 ounces, 8 ounces from elementary to high school. I just did some quick math out based on our paid lunches this year at Griffin and at middle school. This is from all the way through May 31st. And basically did the math out with these lunches to come up with our prices at what we currently charge. If we had charged $4 for the meal at Griffin and $4.25, and same with what we charge at middle school now and what it would be for $4.25. And the combined differences for each category, so the difference for middle school was just one price thing, was about $5,100. If we had done the 25-cent increase going into this year using these numbers, we're looking at $5,600, or $11,000 if we had done across the board. And there's the combined increase totals at the bottom right. So if we had done these, hypothetical, if these were to be in place, this is the extra money we could have had coming in this year. I did get asked on the next slide, I did do our peer cohort as I presented it many, many times over the years. And I did add in district enrollment because I feel like that's very important to what we do. In my honest opinion, I don't feel our peer cohort that has been provided to us this whole time for food services is necessarily a great comparison, because you have Bedford that has 4,000 students versus us who has 1,100. So conveniently, actually, last week, the guy who runs the buying group sent out a survey to all New Hampshire districts and said, what are you charging for lunches? I took that information and came up with I call it the little guy cohort, and these are districts with enrollment very similar to us. Barring Epping, but the reason I put Epping in there is because them and Bow, they are the only ones that do the same price across the board, even though Epping only has like 870 kids. But Guilford, Litchfield, Milford, Pelham, Portsmouth is on there, even though they're high, they charge $4.25. So we're not just the only ones in the state that charge $4.25 for a meal, which is, I was very surprised to hear. Raymond and Winnisquam. And I did reach out to all of the directors, Milford, Pelham, Raymond, all got back to me. They do not end positively. They end with a negative fund balance. Hudson also ends with a negative fund balance. Bow does end with a positive, and I didn't hear back from Guilford, Portsmouth, or Winnisquam. So just based on, I feel like this is more of a cohesive, more pertinent information for what we charge versus what other districts of our size charge. They may not be like surrounding towns, but in terms of enrollment.
How is Bo ending up positive?
Let's take Bo for a moment.
Let's take Bo, yep. So
take
Bo
Bo.
does,
Let's take
Bo does, they actually have very little reimbursement money. All of their money, especially at the high school, And I have actually got to visit Bo with my up and coming high school lead. We went and saw a lunch service. They came to us. We've been working with them a little bit. They make all of their stuff in a la carte. All of their sales are a la carte sales. And that plays into it. Also, the meal charging policy and everything is kind of going to all play into one big thing. But theirs is a la carte sales. They have a cafe. They offer all different kinds of grab and goes and a la carte. Their high school, and like I said, I'll get into it a little bit more, they are not allowed to charge anything. You owe money, you don't get anything until there's money in your account. So that plays into a big part of it. And they make a lot in their a la carte versus like, they're getting off the school breakfast program, for example, because it doesn't do them any service. They can sell more a la carte than they can breakfast meals.
There is a school cultural component.
That too.
I happen to know how Bo operates, shockingly. And there's a school culture component that feeds into why, because the high school is the big driver of why they're turning into the black. Not the sole reason, it's run really well, but at the high school with the open campus model there, the cafe is open from 7 o'clock until the kids leave at 2:30, right? And there are kids buying food all day long. So for example, kids, if you're not a freshman, you don't have study hall. You have just a free period and you can just be in the building wherever, right? The library, the common spaces, whatever. And what do kids do when they're bored? They eat food. So they go down to the caf and they buy an a la carte item and eat. Right? They might buy, if it's breakfast, they might buy a breakfast sandwich for $2, right? If they sell coffee in the morning, they sell that for $1.50, right? There's all this like revenue generated because it's essentially open all day. From a kitchen standpoint, they're probably doing the equivalent lunch sales that we do, right?
I'd argue they're doing less.
They might do less, even,
Yeah.
but it's all the a la carte that's going constantly all day. But that's a whole cultural shift for a school. It's I have said it in the past, Bow High School is a vibe, right? Like you go there and it's a mindset of like how much freedom and flexibility the kids have in their day. It works for that school, right? And this is one of the like positive components of it is that they can generate revenue and these other things from this. The a la carte stuff is crazy.
It's
Your kids go to
insane.
the high school, right? Is crazy there. Like they are buying food all day long. And it just is cranking through sales. And they get their vending machines are open during the day and they're cranking through sales and that, because that's all going back to food service too. But you have to commit to being comfortable with that as a school, right? And maybe we can get there at the high school, maybe we can't. That's a whole community decision. It's full on open campus there. Kids come and go as it is. That might not be something that's right for this community. It might be, who knows, maybe different aspects of it. It's very different.
So is there a la carte pricing? Because I mean, we're talking about school lunch.
Correct.
This is school lunch pricing.
This is school lunch, yes.
Is a la carte more? Is the pricing more akin to retail pricing?
We can work with it a little bit more because it doesn't have to be board approved, or it's not subject to reimbursement from the federal government.
Some of the a la carte stuff at Bow is more expensive than the lunch,
Correct.
right?
Well, that's why I'm wondering, right? Like, how do you? Because I mean, part of the problem is that if you're collecting $3 for a lunch, right? It's not. We obviously know.
Now your $3 is really $6 or more because you're buying things individually.
Right.
Right.
And the way like I said, we went up and we saw a lunch happen, and like I said, I brought up the woman who's going to be running our Campbell kitchen, and she got some really great ideas from the kitchen staff there, and the way they physically run their lunches, I'm going to mimic next year because it allows for more of like a picking type situation, like it's self-service on some of the options that they're like, okay, well, they offer pizza every single day. Well, they're more likely to take 2 if they're serving it themselves versus whatever. And it's all revenue driven that way. It just gave me a new perspective because I've been so gung-ho focused in on our school meals over the last few years that I was like, not that I was neglecting the other side, but I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't realize the possibilities of what could actually occur. And now that I've seen some of it, and I plan to travel to other schools as well, and taking staff members with me to get better ideas as to how to continue to grow what we're doing and close that gap as best we possibly can.
Yeah, and because it's that grab and go style, I mean, you hit it on the head. Like,
Yeah.
We'll use meatball subs, my favorite.
Of course.
Right. So at Bo, the meatball sub is sitting there as an individual item, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the kid can just grab the sub, or with some of the bigger high school kids, they will grab 2 of them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they just are buying that. They're not buying a school lunch, right? So they're bypassing the fruit and the vegetable that would have to come along. Well, I think the veggies in that, but the fruit and the other things that would come along with it. I've been in that lunchroom. The number of times I've said, like, hey, just grab that. It's actually cheaper if you grab the OJ. And they're just like, nah, don't worry about it. You know, I just want the sub. I'm not going to eat the.
And if we were to implement
Sticks or
that
whatever
at
it is.
Campbell, you'd be, if they were just buying the meatball sub, you'd be $4.75, not $4.25, because it's not a complete meal, or, you know, we do charge a higher price. And then if it's 2, you're looking at what, $9-ish, $9.25.
I
I mean, I've seen kids spend $20 at lunch on a regular basis.
I think what's interesting to me about this, and that's a really positive thing for us, is that our biggest struggle with the pricing has been the fear that there's going to be some people that don't qualify for a free and reduced lunch that are on the cusp that are really going to be impacted by the change in this. And to me, it sounds like this is a way around that.
Correct.
Because you can absolutely generate more revenue without needing to impact them.
And you guys, I mean, obviously you are the board, you set the meal prices, so I'm fine with whatever you choose, but that would be my suggestion. Like I said, I did bring it to other people,
It's
but
not all roses. Like
It's
we
not.
just painted a lovely picture of how Bo cheats the system here, but they're not getting as much revenue back because the meals aren't being bought. If you remember, we did a presentation a few months ago now at this point where we get a certain amount of revenue back for every meal bought, and that would sometimes be a frustration there. Like, just take the orange juice to make it a meal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can get the kickback from selling a.
But they're in the
meal.
black, though.
They are, right?
So, like,
so that's kind of the yin and the yang of it, the give or take, right? Where we're gonna see a decline in the amount of, if we go to more of that grab and go style, we're gonna see a decline in the amount of revenue that comes back from making full lunch sales, and we're hoping, and there is evidence obviously that shows, offset by just that you're gonna generate more money, period, in this type of style, which will make up the difference in the type of revenue you're losing in terms of the federal funding piece.
Correct.
I mean, the way I see this, like, I remember in high school, all through track, I was getting double, triple lunches. I just needed the calories.
Yeah.
And so, and I remember I had to buy complete meals, whereas if I could buy a meal and then say, yeah, I want to add another meatball sub and I want to add another side of fries to that, you know, and not get 2.5 meals and throw away half of it, that's the extra revenue. You're still getting the meal reimbursement, and you can add in the grab and go to that.
Yeah.
So you're the one that's not taking the fruit and vegetable and costing us
no,
money.
the fries count as a vegetable.
No,
Fries
I
count as a
did.
vegetable.
I did 3 times over.
Julie's got, I'm putting her on the spot. Julie's got a high school boy at Bo, right? I am sure
I'm
you are spending
constantly
a
refilling
lot
that
of
account,
money
constantly.
into that account. Yes.
Yes.
He's an
Breakfast
athlete.
and lunch every day.
Yes.
And then
And then snacks all day. Like, it's just like constant all the time. It's going out.
Is this, you're going to get to your next slide, but is this happening at the Bow Middle School as well?
It's not as free for all, because it's just not. It's middle school. You can't do that. There are other things. It's where they have a version of a cafe and different things they can purchase, like during the day and stuff like that. Does do that, and kids can buy multiple like lunches and things. But it's not like the high school where it literally is kids walk in. I mean, it's supervised. Don't get me wrong. We're not. And like, yes, there's a little theft. Like, be honest. Like, because if you're in this kind of trust, and this is where like that give and take of trust comes from. If it's going to be grab and go and a lot of action coming in and out, there is product that walks out the door that just is going missing, in the sense of the kids are just taking it, not paying for it, right? It's minuscule in the big scheme of things, but again, I don't want to be all rosy here. Like,
No.
that does happen.
I
right?
feel like with food services, especially, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
go
in
for
the
it.
National School Lunch Program, and really, like, in a lot of, I call it, like I said, in our little guy cohort here, we are really stuck between a rock and a hard place, because a lot of these districts do not make money. And it's balancing, like you said, with the meal prices. We can only raise meal prices so much before people stop buying, and then we don't make money. So I am just so beside myself that I'm trying literally everything I can to, like I said, close that gap and provide better options and do as much as we can with as little as we are getting. But I feel like we're constantly stuck in a rock and a hard place, and I'm just as frustrated as anyone else is because
Now, there's other things, we're going to get to other slides of Lauren's presentation of other things that Bo and other districts do to help offset and help with this kind of problem if we're good to kind of go. And that's how they handle meal charging, so.
Yeah, so because I got my SNS this year, through that process of getting my school nutrition specialist credentials, I did learn a lot more about how the program works, the ins and outs of things that necessarily is not what I was taught. So a lot of the things that I've been taught was displayed as, it's the rule, it's what it is, you have to do it. And then it turns out, no, it's actually not. The board and the district can set their own policies and their own procedures. So something I'm floating to the board as an idea, and we don't have to do anything with this immediately. We can take a year, a couple months, whatever we want to do to talk about it. I'm interested in updating our meal charging policy to get to a point that, again, does mimic Bo, where we do set a no charge policy whatsoever at the high school. The meaning behind that, and it's not because I'm mean and I want to take food away from people, but it's also real world experience. You can't walk into McDonald's with no money and get a meal. You can't walk into somewhere else, again, McDonald's, and say, I know I owe money, but I'm just going to take this anyway. I was very much kind of felt gross about it until I saw it in action, actually at Bo, where I was standing there talking to the kitchen manager, and she went, watch. And the kid had his lunch, and the cashier said, I'm really sorry, you don't have any money. He reached in his wallet, took out $5, gave it to her, and she said that money was there the whole time, but it wasn't necessarily going to make it to the register. Again, this is a very touchy subject, and I understand that. I think their collective O list at that high school is like $14. Obviously, it's a case-by-case basis. A free and reduced student comes up with, an owed money. We're not going to take meals from them. They have that. But we have out of our entire $2,300 meal debt, half of it belongs to the high school. And of that half, it's the juniors and seniors. And it's increasingly frustrating to me to have to chase these families down who are, I'm going to be very frank, are paid families that just ignore me. And if this is a way we can kind of help take some of the pressure off of my staff, take some of the pressure off of what we do on a day-to-day, and we're willing to explore this option, I'm happy to mock things up and do what we want to do. If this is something we are not interested in pursuing, it's fine. I'm not going to be offended, but I just figured I would float the idea out with that. Hand in hand with that, I want to explore, because this would be a budgeting situation, the implementation of credit card machines at the high school. Again, saw it, Bo does it. I'm not just mimicking it after Bo. This is just the only place that I went to.
They're in the black. I don't care if you mimic.
Okay, great, stellar. Love that for us. I mean, and it's innovative. It's ways we're trying to get this close. So what they do is the credit card machines are a single one-time installment fee through Link does it. I already asked all those questions, and it's about $700. And she said on the phone, the district, would have to eat the fee, which is about 4% per charge. The way Bo gets around that is they have a minimum set up. You have to pay $10. Now, whether you buy $10 worth of stuff or you just say you buy a lunch for $3, the other $7 goes on your account. And that's how the 4% fee is 40 cents a go. But it also, again, hands in hands with the meal charging policy, which then keeps their accounts positive. And then you don't have that kind of extra. Again, floating the idea out there for discussion and or, contemplation over the next few months, whatever you want to think about. I'm not looking for answers today, just discussing some options.
I'm doing my part. My kid just paid $8.60 at the middle school today.
Holy moly. Do your part, Andrew. Thank you. Thank you for doing
up how much he's eating.
Right. It is, yeah.
So a couple of things. I was there as they unrolled the meal charging thing. There is, when you first roll it out, look, there's some awkward conversations, right? But when you establish it as the culture, you get over the awkward conversations. And no, I never saw a kid go hungry, right? If there's a situation, we always took care of the student, right? They always got a lunch. Maybe they didn't get 3 meatball subs, but they got lunch, right? And they were fed for whatever the situation is. And there was definitely situations, that's just the way it is.
Yep.
But when you do establish it as the culture, once you get over the initial kind of, I won't even say confrontation, but some challenging situations, it just becomes the norm and people do it. The credit card thing, while great for food services, is something in general I think we should start thinking about for multiple things we do at the school. For example, like when we do a play, when we're selling tickets at the door and stuff like that. If we have ways to generate additional revenue, I don't know about you guys, but I pay almost everything with a card of some sort, right? Like I rarely have cash that I'm using to pay for stuff for. And we don't necessarily, we're getting better at it. We played around with the Square thing to help with some of that stuff. But there's ways to use Link, no pun intended, but to link to multiple things, not just food service, to allow credit card purchases for people in our community. And there is that service fee, but if you do put some minimums in, I believe Bo's actually raising their minimum.
They are, they're gonna raise it to 20
next year. Because it's been a success. They started with that lower minimum to encourage people to use credit cards for food service.
They said about 5 to 10% of their overall sales are through the credit card.
So, and again, the kids, with that minimum, they're gonna put that on, they're gonna pay for the thing they're purchasing, and there's always extra money that they're gonna spend eventually, but it's there. But that's the point, they're gonna spend it eventually, right? So if they spent $5 on their lunch that day and it's a $20 minimum, you can count on that 15 eventually going back into the school's revenue.
I also
now, from
may
a
have-
parent standpoint, again, transparency, it's not all rosy. You better be paying attention to what your kid's buying, because we've seen phone calls, hey, you got $1,000 that your kid spent this week, no joke, and they're like, excuse me? What? Yeah, it looks like they bought like a ton of food this week and maybe bought some food for their friends. So, like, be paying attention to what your account is and stuff like that. 1,000 might be a little exaggeration, but like
That's a lot
200.
of friends.
Lot of friends and a lot of.
But and that's like you have to train like people to do this. Like with that cafe, the Bo system is a keypad, right? So each kid gets a 5-digit keypad, like here in Litchfield, and kids learn their friends' keypads, right? Or the kids give out their keypad to their friends, and so and so is just quickly using the keypad at the cafe because it's a different computer system, or the friend goes up and types their name in and then turns around and hands the food off to their buddy, right? And all of a sudden they've spent $25 at one shot. Parents have to talk to their kids about being responsible. I mean, that's part of the education of all this, but that will be some of the like cons that happen right away if you were to entertain some of these things, is like some awkward conversations like, hey, your kid spent $200 this week, and we're not giving that money back to you. You have to talk to your kid about what they did, and how they approach this stuff.
I have a quick question. So, are the high school students notified, of their, I know the parents are, I know
Everybody is, yeah, it's,
Are kids seeing it though, or is there a way to make sure that, because I think the way you avoid the awkwardness is having the kid be aware. I would think that some kids might just walk up there and be like, I have no idea what's on my.
Yeah, a lot of them
I
do.
have no clue if my parents put money on my lunch account.
Right, yeah. And there's ways, we'll have, you hit every scenario basically, is that we'll have kids go, can I check my balance? And then you check the balance, or, hey, you have $2 left, or hey, you just went negative. There's always a communication piece. Sometimes it's an issue because you just hit the thing and then they just go and you're like, you have negative, okay. And then you just, they're halfway across the calf, which you're not going to scream. You're negative $5.
I've gone into the negative here, because I put in $100 at a time, right, to the foods. Yeah, I know.
Unacceptable.
And I went to buy lunch and I went to the negative, and they were like, "Hey, you're in the negative." I was like, "Oh, sorry," and I'll come back with I didn't have money on me at the time, but I think they can find me. But but they just pivoted the screen and showed me hey, you're down $2.
Yeah, it's on the register it would be for anything else. But
maybe if we had something where they could look it up somewhere in the calf or something, just so that way.
Yeah, I see what you're
saying.
I pick it up to put it down.
Then it's at least hey, I should probably check my balance before I get.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
And then the other thing I just wanted to mention is there's a lot of, you got to really look at credit card vendors because some of them charge a heck of a lot more than others.
Yeah, no, I know. I just, Link was the one I happened to be on the phone with, and they provide our overall POS system. So I was like, What do you do about credit cards? And the credit cards the system also does Apple Pay and Google Pay as well, which is a big thing. Our vending machine does Apple, and I don't know if it does Google Pay, but it definitely does Apple Pay. It's just the way a lot of people are buying lunch now. And another thing I heard from the Bow director is that she'll have parents from the other schools, because they have a credit card machine in the office as well, and they'll call up because it's actually cheaper to put money on the kid's account through the credit card machine right then and there on the phone than it is to like go online and load your, because the fee is less with that minimum. Just saying. So those are some ideas that I've now put the bug in your ear for, and it's something to think about. We can revisit at another time.
We're not asking for any approvals or changes.
No.
We just want you to start thinking about this as we wrap up the year. Lauren's wrapping up her stuff, checking out how food service went this year. I think we will, with a policy, obviously that would go through policy committee first before coming here. But these are just kind of things that we've been discussing about in the food service realm, like the credit card machine. You're gonna see something in the budget proposal next fall related to this. So it's just putting it on your radar as we kind of wrap up the school year. No proposed changes at this point.
And then the last slide I have is more ideas to bring in more revenue. As we discussed, increasing a la carte options at middle school and Campbell. We have new federal guidelines that we just had a wonderfully fun webinar about today. So that's actually, we have to overhaul breakfast, which I wanted to anyway. It's reducing the added sugar items. So we're going to be overhauling the breakfast next year. Something that I found over the winter, and I was like, I don't know why I didn't ever think of this, but it's a hot chocolate program, and basically you just heat the chocolate milk up, and I was like, oh, that's stupidly easy. We can totally do that. So we're going to promote that during the winter, and it would just be the same price as a milk, but it would boost our milk participation and may even get more milk, being sold. At Bow, we did witness, they had the deli bar like we normally do at the high school, but they also they had smoothie bowl day that day, and that was really cool. They had, it's really hard being the only chef food person for 3 schools where they have a lot of, like, Tiffany and Nikki are very food people, and they had like poke bowls and all this stuff, and so I'm just like, I can't think of that for all the schools, but they gave us some really great ideas. A wider variety of new recipes at middle school in Griffin, utilizing what we already have in house and our commodity items. We're continuing to tweak that. I'm going to be investing in my staff a lot more because I go to our national conferences for free. So I'm investing in our staff to go to the local conferences to learn these kinds of new tricks and things like that. Jen, sorry, I'm just telling you this now. Gradual implementation of offering second helpings for middle schools, grades 6 through 8 over the next year. Sorry. Surprise. We can't offer seconds to everybody at middle school. The reason fifth's not on here, and it's not because I don't like fifth graders, it's because per the USDA regulations, they're still elementary students. And that's out of their calorie and nutritional guidelines. So we're going to do a slow implementation of that because that was brought up during the career day. Why can't we get those seconds? And then really, I know it's been addressed a couple of times, really hitting home with the wellness policy and committee. We are going to be really hitting that hard, and we've been talking about a bunch of things, and that will be hopefully resulting in some more catering opportunities for us instead of, we're planning this whatever for this group of people, but hopefully utilizing the food services more for catering, which will bring in some more revenue as well.
I use you all the time. You're amazing.
You use me all the time. Yep. I cater for Sarah all the time. You did. Yeah. Jen used me a lot too. So, I know it's not a fun, super fun conversation to have. I'm very upset about it. Like I said, I take it very.
It's an important conversation.
It's a very important conversation, and it's not. I know it's not for lack of what we're doing. I know we do a good job. My department does a great job. My staff are fantastic. We do good work. Our meal participation is steady at 50% across the district for lunch, which for a district of our size is huge. Our breakfast has been steady. I think it was at 15% last I saw, which isn't stellar, but breakfast is always tough. We've done really good work, and we continue to do good work. Our reimbursement this year is already surpassed what we got last year. I think there's just a lot of other factors in play. So I'm constantly trying to do more and better.
Awesome. Any questions for
Warren Crowley today.
Okay, you only look at me.
I know. So specifically, Matt, do you have any?
Just a comment. I think you wanted, it sounded like you would like feedback. I think you're going in all the right directions. I'd love to, I think, keep going with this, and I think we should be definitely looking at implementing these things, and I think you're going to be the National Director of the Year next year. with
Better
these
be.
kinda-
I'm definitely the school nutrition New Hampshire president the next 2 years, so
There you go.
we have that. Doing all the things, so, but I do appreciate it, like, I know
I
it's not.
appreciate you looking into all of this. I will say the only one that really gives me hesitance is the raising of the prices. The a la carte sounds amazing.
Yep.
I think the credit card sounds great. Those are all of those ideas are awesome.
I get it,
I just,
I get it.
I bristle at $4.25 across the board.
I get it.
When only one other school over on the seacoast that high. And
T-
so
yep. I understand.
that's the only one that gives me pause, not a no, but just
No, it's cool. And that, the meal charge thing, I mean, not charge, goodness gracious, the meal prices, I do need to know that sooner than later, like not immediately, but it does affect our state application, which I'm really hope they really like shortened our application this year, so I'm really hoping to get that in before.
So here's what I like to do. We have Mr. Plansky hopefully joining us at our next board meeting. This is certainly food for thought. See what I did
That
there.
was good, that was
That
good.
was nice. Yep.
We'll fill Mr. Plansky in, and I'd like to add this to the agenda at our next meeting, just for continued conversation.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Can I say with the credit cards, tie in with curriculum and proper financial balancing? Because I know when I left high school, I had no clue about a credit card. And I goes, here's a plastic thing. And I read myself into a lot of trouble.
Personal finance, yes.
It's a required class.
Yeah.
See, now they don't even
Coming
get
up.
the plastic thing. Now it just goes.
It's just on the phone.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
here's
But
access to the plastic thing. Danger, danger.
I still struggle with that as an adult, so
Oh, I
it's,
still
you
do.
know.
Thank you again.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate all your support. You guys are great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll turn it over to Danny and Nick for an update. Here we go, end of year.
I know our last one.
So baseball have their first round of playoffs tomorrow at home against Guilford and are currently 11-5. Softball have their first round of playoffs away against Sanborn and are currently 8-8. Boys
Dun,
lacrosse.
dun, dun.
Boys lacrosse have their first round of playoffs tomorrow and are currently 10-5. Girls lacrosse ended their season being 4-10, and track and field had their state meet this weekend.
Awesome.
Some of the past activities we've had going on was on the 20th, we had 8th grade step up day, and then we also had the spring pops concert that night. And then on the 20th, we had the academic excellence banquet for the seniors. And then on the 30th, we had one of our best spring fests yet. We got so much positive feedback from it. It was just like a full day of celebrating the students with our award ceremony in the morning, and then we had our fun scavenger hunt outside. We really just got the whole school involved. It was really good.
And in the last few weeks of school, we have senior week, and on the 11th we have class night, and on the 12th we have the last day of school and graduation.
Excuse me.
For future activities, we just have summer. I'm sure everyone's excited.
Campbell won the softball. Yeah, I just looked it up. They won 6-5. That was pretty close.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So LMS is completed with NHSAS. They're pleased with the student growth from last year. We have a celebration for tomorrow. All students who made growth in ELA, math, and or science will get a water balloon to toss at Miss Grantham and Mr. Peterson. We have over 600 balloons coming our way. LMS 6th grade just completed their Entrepreneur Day projects. 89 students created a small business with a product to sell. The creativity was awesome. Congratulations to our LMS musicians for wrapping up the year strong with concerts, Memorial Day assembly performances for our raising 5th graders tomorrow.
What time is the balloon toss?
It's gonna be after lunches, so
Okay.
each grade level, so we're gonna get pelted with 157 at this time.
Oh, it's broken up.
It's broken up.
Ow.
It's a full day.
If
Yeah.
you want to see Jeff or I be professional, don't come between 10:35 and 2:30.
That's exactly what I want to do.
Are you gonna take the water balloon with you? We have extra.
So I was gonna say the question is, who's filling all of the water balloons?
Oh,
I got the ones that you attach to the hose.
was,
thing.
yeah, that was
okay.
a.
Oh, you're
yeah.
cheating on that.
Oh,
Efficiency.
The fight with the knot.
efficiency. Otherwise, I'm a lot of knots.
But for the rest of LMS, the students are finishing up the year strong with amazing academics. In order to have the most accurate data for honors and high honors, students will be receiving their certificates at school in a grade level assembly on June 12th. Students will be able to celebrate the news with families when they get home. Promotion is scheduled for 6/11 at 5 p.m. and they appreciate the support from the CHS Glee Club to help facilitate organized parking. Friday is the fundraiser field day. Students will spend time completing outdoor games. These focus on working together, communication, and they are looking forward to spending time together.
And for Griffin, it's field trip season. Today, third is at Strawberry Bank. Last week, kindergarten went to the Butterfly Place, and second went to Charming Fair Farm. Next week, first we'll be going to C Science Center. Jaden Vickers was the champion of the first annual GMS Rock Paper Scissors contest. Congrats.
Nice.
I love that it was fourth graders versus kindergarten.
I know, right?
Really?
But yeah,
That's crazy. That's awesome.
that's it.
Well, we
Oh.
just wanted to we just wanted to add one more slide just because it's our last meeting, and we just wanted to ask like if you guys had any ideas about what you guys wanted us to do next year. I sadly won't be school board rep next year. I plan on being co-president next
Oh,
year.
okay. All right, that's a good reason.
And
Then.
then Nick's obviously going to college, but we just wanted to ask for your guys' opinion and like what you want to see this grow into. Obviously, this year we added all the other schools and everything, so we were just wondering.
Yeah, I mean, I think having the representation of all the schools, right, is
Yeah.
a nice welcomed addition this year, right? I think you guys have done an amazing job
Thank you.
representing the district. You're definitely are viewed as a member of this board and have a seat at the table. I've definitely put you on point, probably unexpectedly sometimes, right? But that's all good, right? Keeping everybody on their toes.
I
right?
almost did it during the food presentation, and I was like, no.
But no, I mean your thoughts and your input and your viewpoints on the district are appreciated, and so heartfelt thank you and best wishes for an amazing summer and next chapter.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, thank you.
Any thoughts or feedback for the student reps?
I mean, I agree with everything that you just said. You surprise me sometimes that you're at like I'm like they can't be paying attention to this, and then you chime in with something. And I'm like, wow.
All right, thank you.
Thank you guys.
All right, moving on to community comment on our agenda items. This is our first of 2 community comment sessions. Any community comment this evening? All right, I will close community comment and move into correspondence and turn it over to Vice Chair Ames for a summary.
Thank you. On May 21st, the superintendent emailed the board during the meeting circulating the RFP for GMS. On May 22nd, Ron O'Blennis emailed the board requesting contact information for the school's legal counsel. On May 22nd, Holly Falzone emailed the board circulating an administrator's contract for review. On May 22nd, Ron O'Blennis emailed the board and facilities committee circulating the text message sent to the school board chair. On May 22nd, Valerie Nelson, CHS Director of School Counseling, circulated an invitation for the board to attend May 30th underclassmen awards and then the June 11th senior night. On May 23rd, Dan DeWitt sent an email to Mr. O'Blennis and copied the board advising of his removal from FIC based on the appointment by the school board. On May 23rd, Brianna Boulanger emailed the board, reaching out about availability at her private practice for mental health care for students under age 18. On May 27th, Jan Sullivan emailed the board circulating draft public and non-public minutes for May 21st, 2025 meeting. On May 28th, Ann Inamorati emailed the board circulating the June 4th, 2025 manifests. On May 30th, Renee Burgess emailed the board circulating the draft June 4th, 2025 agenda. And on June 4th, the superintendent sent a text message to the board with an update on a confidential personnel matter. And that brings us up to date as of like noon.
Thank you very much. We'll turn it over to the superintendent for an update.
Yeah, thank you. So first, just enrollment. We do this once a month. It's actually not the enrollment meeting this, but I did want to just mention kindergarten enrollment. We're still at 61, which is low. So I think when we're at the next meeting, we're going to allow some hiring stuff to still play out. We have open positions in the district still. We have some ideas to make sure that if we need to move someone to cover an open position, that we can cover that, right? So we're not having excess teachers or anything unnecessarily in that way. We're still in that hiring season though, and allowing things to play out. But, right now, for example, we have 5 kindergartens, and obviously if that's the number, we're not gonna have 5 kindergartens next year, right? So then we would move a teacher to cover a different need for us as needed. But we are gonna let the hiring season play out to see exactly what that need could be, and then kind of go from there. So we'll continue to update the board in along those lines. And again, I'll make my pitch that I have for the last couple board meetings. I've been including in my message. If you have kindergartners, please register them with our building class list, their building assignments, and those type of things. We, based again over this last time, but based upon projections, feels like we should have more kindergartners. If you look at the birth rates from the corresponding years, it's not the same kind of percentage that we've seen historically. So if there are families out there that haven't registered their kindergartner yet, please reach out to GMS. They will be happy to help you. So there we go.
Thank you for that update.
Next, critical response mapping. So that link's going to take you to a website. So on May 1st, I went to a presentation at the Hudson Police Department. Chief Jones from the Litchfield PD was going to join me, but unfortunately had a police matter here in Litchfield to deal with that morning, so he didn't join me. But it was a meeting of a number of different emergency personnel from around the district. So obviously Hudson PD was there. Salem PD, we were represented Litchfield, Derry, Londonderry, different communities, and we saw a presentation about critical response mapping, which is this is the group that made the presentation, Critical Response Group, and essentially it's would they come in and they map a facility. Maybe it would be for us here in the school district, it would be our 3 schools, and it's in a grid type of style, a very straightforward grid style where horizontally it might be numerically, and then vertically it might be alphabetically. And that allows for safety personnel who are all coming with different ways of talking to be on a common language when they're coming in to resolve an issue. For example, we might say an issue is in the fax room, right? And that might be shorthanded for us as school personnel where we know exactly where the fax room is. But if we had a situation there and I'm on the radio with police, I'm saying, hey, there's a situation in the fax room, they may not specifically know what that is. They might not know what room 146 is, right? They might not. They might be looking at a map that's not necessarily oriented to true north. They're going to be looking at it in their different ways. Police has their own way of doing things. Fire has their own way of doing things. Schools have their own ways of doing things. Everyone has their own kind of language, and this is kind of a common ground for safety personnel. So this was, I thought, a great presentation. What this group would come in is they come in and they create this critical map for whatever your group and your facility is. Again, for us, it would be the school buildings and the accompanying land with it. They produce the mapping for you. They orient it to true north. They give you the maps, they're yours, right? They do it digitally and hard copies for it, and they provide it for all the safety personnel that you need to provide it to. So they'll provide it to the police department, the fire department, your local 911 call center, and yourself and anyone else that you want. And they come in and do this work. I think it's something, Chief Jones was very intrigued by it as well. We followed up afterwards. He had been familiar with it beforehand as well. And it seemed like a lot of the other local police departments and their schools and fire departments there as well all seem to be very intrigued by this. This group has done significant projects of this kind. They just did the Super Bowl this past year, as they do those level kind of projects, and also down to the school and local levels. When we were there, the Salem police were like, do you do more than just, hospitals and schools? They were like, would you do Tuscan Village? And they're like, yeah, we would do that for you. Like different zones would have different things. Here in Litchfield, we could expand this beyond the schools, partner with the town. They could do their safety facility here, other places in town, some of the field spaces. So again, everyone that common language. So I wanted to introduce to you, this is going to come up later in end of the year conferences, because we received a quote on what this would cost us in terms of that, and I'll talk about it when we get to encumbrances down there. But this is something that the safety personnel in town are on board with, and there would be a one-time cost to do it initially, and then there would be a reoccurring cost potentially. So it's roughly about $4,000 per school, so the quote that we have is about $12,000 to do this mapping, original set of maps. And then what they will do is charge you about $500 per school to come and do updates every single year. You don't have to do that every single year, but for us, for example, if, I'm just saying hypothetically, we were to do this year, we were gonna get an elementary school renovation potentially approved, right? And we're in this agreement with them, they would update our maps to do that for minimal cost because we're in this kind of yearly agreement with them and stuff like that. This is all military personnel who originated this. I obviously did not serve, but my understanding is that this is where it comes from.
It's very, very common in the commercial world.
Yeah.
We build our buildings to a standard like this.
Yeah.
It's room numbers are numbered front to back, and I don't know if it's oriented true north or not, but I know column lines are alphabetical and room designations are front to back.
Yeah. And then it's all common language that
Yep.
they used to, and it's simple and straightforward, so you can walk into the situation and be alert to it. So I think I just want to present it here, allow you to go through the website. We have a rep that we've been in contact with who did the presentation, who is happy to, do a mini presentation or talk to the board if it's something they want more information on. And I just want to put this on your radar. And it's something, we'll talk about a little bit end of the year encumbrances if it's something more immediate. I'm not expecting that per se, but it is something that I think could be a benefit to us as a community. So there you go. Any questions?
Not yet.
Next thing, ropes course update. Ryan, right? Yes. Me and Julie met with Ryan from I keep wanting to call him Jason. Ryan from Wingspeed yesterday at the ropes course, and to go over how to dismantle it. I'll just be straightforward with it. Like if we, would like to not move forward with it, what would we need to take down? What would be the costs associated with this? Who would do the work? What would happen with the stuff? Like all of those type of details on it. So we walked through the ropes course. He went through what would need to happen, what would need to be removed, what could stay. For example, on all the lower kind of part of the course, from an insurance standpoint, what you need to do is unscrew everything and take away the big screws and the big bolts and stuff like that, but you would leave some of the stuff in the tree so the tree can continue to kind of grow around it, and you would be covered from an insurance standpoint in that kind of terms. And then the logs that were part of the different pieces, you could lay them on the ground, or you could just dispose of them or do whatever you want. For some of the more up in the air pieces, there's a threshold of about 12 feet, I think he said, where you would want to remove stuff up to that threshold, but some of those kind of higher perches up there, you can put a no trespass sign up there and remove access to it, and then you're covered yourself from an insurance. They can take it down as well. They talked about that. They can climb up there and take the entire thing down, and they would also take down anything that connected various pieces. So there's bridges and different steel and everything that could do that, and they would take that down and remove that as well if we elect to go with that. In terms of what we can do with it, they will pretty much take most of it off of our hands. A lot of it's not resellable, but some of it is, For example, with the ropes themselves, he was saying, if it's been in use, then they can't really resell it, right? That's because it's been in use, right? They can't guarantee its safety. They donate that to, ironically, someone who makes dog leashes out of the ropes and stuff like that. So you could get dog leashes for your community as like a trade-off. Sounds great. And could use that. But we also have rope, in storage that has never been used. And that's something that could be, they could sell to someone else who's doing those type of things. Same thing with some of the other equipment, like for helmets. There are a number of helmets that are in good condition that are not near their end of life expectancy. Those could be resold, and we would receive some funds back for that. Where there are other helmets that have or are about to exceed their life expectancy, so we wouldn't get any value back for that. But he said he would take everything and dispose of it for us, if need be, and stuff like that. So really the only cost for it is labor. That's what we would have to pay for. He's preparing a quote for us that he'll get to us as soon as he can. And that is where we are at the rope course. We are ready to close it down. So that's where we're at from it. And
Is the quote going to be for, is it going to give you an idea of what it would cost to take everything down, including above 12 feet?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Great.
Yep. So
So
we're
we're done with it.
yeah. So that's where we are.
Seeing the number and.
Yep. Yep. And we'll have it. He's like, I just have a bunch of trainings this week, so I'll get it
Like
to
by
you.
the end of the weekend.
Yeah. So
I assume once it's down, we update our insurance to let them know.
yep. Exactly.
Hopefully save some money.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be a huge moneymaker for us in any shape or form, but maybe let's
Money
sleep.
saver.
Yeah, money saver, but you know, if we're not using it, we shouldn't have the risk. So, you know, so. And then just kind of a general year update. I mean, the students talked about some of this stuff already, so I won't try too much on it. We have a couple of big events coming up with fourth grade. When's fourth grade promotion, Dan? Monday. 9 a.m., right?
Don't show up before 9.
Yeah, show up at 9 a.m.
Ceremony will start between 9:15 and 9.
Okay. Fourth grade promotion on Monday. Eighth grade promotion is Wednesday evening at 5 o'clock, right, at LMS. And then senior night follows that at 6:30 at the high school. And then we have graduation on Thursday at 6 o'clock. I should look to Nick for this one. 6 o'clock, right?
Honestly, yeah, 6.
6 o'clock. So those are our big events. Obviously, the board is invited to any of our end of the year events. We've obviously been going through a bunch of them. I went to the honors dinner for the high school the other night, Thursday night. It was wonderful hearing, you know, just hearing the teachers talk about the kids, obviously the relationships that have been formed there, the success the kids have. I mean, our kids are going to some great schools. It's not just all about college, but, you know, college is part of it where our kids do. You know, we have students going to Duke, to Yale, to UVM, some really WPI, high-achieving schools. UNH, it's a high-achieving school. That's
Yes,
where I
it is.
graduated. It's the best school out there. And lots of other schools. So it was wonderful to kind of see the seniors celebrated in that way. And, you know, the schools are having different events, Entrepreneurship Day for LMS, and all the field trips at GMS, and just the chaos of their field days coming up. That's gonna be scary. And seniors have their class trip Monday night, you know, into Tuesday. Say hi to all the boat kids for me, because that's who you're sharing the boat with on Monday night. So, yeah, wrapping up the school year. So,
Too fast.
Can you believe it?
no,
Whole year under your belt.
yeah, it's been a really, really good year. I guess this is the last. I mean, we'll have another board meeting in June, but the school year will be over. It's been an incredible school year. I'll just speak for myself, but the schools are wonderful. The people who work at the schools, the students at the schools, the community in general, so supportive of everything that we do. There's just great things happening every day. It's wonderful. It's exhausting. School years are exhausting. Your parents, and you know, like we get to this point of the year, and it's just, please end. I'm sure you guys are that same way. Nick, you're a senior. I'm sure you are counting down the minutes to graduate here. Yeah.
Minutes, seconds, whatever.
Yeah, and that's such a natural thing. Like, it means we did our jobs. If the seniors are at a point where they're like, I'm ready, then it's like, good, you should be, because you're graduating. And so it means we've done a good job with the kids and stuff like that. So it's been a wonderful year. Lots of good things. We're happy to build on it in the years ahead and stuff. So, yeah.
Thank you for that update.
Yeah.
For a business administration update, and we have solar.
We do have solar. So we have
The sparks fly.
we have power going to the building now.
Did everyone hear that?
Power
Switch has been flipped on solar.
You should have really taken a video of the switch getting flipped
I
and
know,
posted it on,
right?
sent it over to Litchfield What's Up.
Exactly.
Confetti.
So that's very exciting. They're still doing a little bit of testing, but it's still live and ready to go. So that is very exciting. I did follow up with Kay about the battery and where we stand with that. She's going to be reaching out to us to do some of the work over the summer. But she did talk a bit about the factory, because I asked specifically, I wanted to make sure that there was.
Factory
This
that
is
doesn't
actually-
exist is now under renovation.
No, that was the last factory.
I know.
They
that's what I'm
switched to
saying.
technology. They switched to technology, and now this factory is under renovation. This is
Yeah,
I feel like we should stick
For-
Dan
for-
on this.
yeah.
Yeah.
For the
Are we okay
reno.
to let the student reps.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Enjoy your evening.
Yeah. That,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we give Nick his little like sign? Or I guess both of them if they're not coming back. You want your sign?
yeah.
Oh my god.
No, wait, really?
You can have the, yeah, we need the holder, but you can take the little sign.
I'm trying to.
Should slide out.
go.
It's your last task as a senior. Can you slide out the name?
You're stuck here forever.
There we go.
Thank you guys.
There you go. Thanks, guys. See ya.
I'll buy a little mini router so I can router out the etching plastics so we can slide those in a little bit easier than paper. So with this renovation, do you have any idea of how extensive that renovation is? I mean, do they currently have occupancy permits? Are they inspected to deal with
I think
energized
we
power
give Dan-
systems?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's have Dan.
Dan.
have
Those
a
are cute
comment.
questions.
Exactly.
I think, Andrew could use a break. I think we give
I
Dan
think we should
K's
put
email.
Dan and
and we
Andrew on it.
let him loose.
I mean, the
factory will be magically built in a week.
the other concerns I have is drawing design to the battery are not complete yet.
She said
Right?
they're being worked on, yes.
And it's not UL certified.
Correct.
It does.
It's pending UL certification.
Do we know?
What's the delay? Like, why hasn't this? I mean, I know there's so many
I know.
questions here, and
Correct.
I'm preaching
Correct,
to the choir.
I know.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that it was gonna be a while before they could build them, but like, you could have been designing them.
I was gonna say the design should have been done and it needs to be approved.
Certifications, all the paperwork could have been happening.
Is UL is Underwriters Laboratories. It goes into an NRTL certification process. That can take a very long time for an unproven design with an unproven technology. So that could be potentially
I was under the-
years.
I was under the impression that we were switching to we were going from an unestablished technology that they didn't even have a site to
readily
build
available-
to a readily available. So
That's what I understood as well. So that's why I'm really confused by that.
Yeah, so
it sounds to me like they went back to the original one.
what are we building? Because, my understanding is we're supposed to.
Jen apparently knows
buy
what
something.
what they're building.
Do you want me to speak to
Sure.
Come on up.
history is on this? Because I might be the only one that has it really.
That would
Great.
be great.
That'd be great.
Very helpful.
Come on up.
So the technology originally designed was to be this high-tech, unproven, untested, untried.
Supercapacitors.
Supercapacitors with inverters and all kinds of fun things attached to them. Our fire chief and fire department came and we did a walkthrough of the site, and they were like, at a school with children, no thank you, not gonna fly, not gonna happen. So it was
Especially with how close it was supposed to be.
correct, because it's only across the driveway. So if you think of where our loading dock is, the pad is supposed to be poured adjacent to where our parking spots are in the back there. Not good. So last August, it's been a while. It was completely shifted to a standard battery, standard operating procedure, just because it was covered and was tested. And
But
it was
that
the
doesn't
best.
sound like what we're getting now.
I haven't heard the newest one. Is it back to the capacitor?
Well, so she did say they're using a Japanese design, not the Chinese design. So I don't know
What was explained to us in a meeting was that the design was switching to a Toshiba-based product that was readily available, industry standard. That, to me, reflecting on this conversation,
Right.
is not a drawing of the design of a battery that requires certifications.
That is true.
It sounds like she's gone back to just changed it again without telling you. I mean, I don't want to guess at that,
So,
but I think
like,
we should confirm.
if that's the case, like, we need another meeting with Kay, right? We need to understand what this is, and that's not going to be okay.
Right.
Right, and if this is a cost issue, because now Dynamic Grid doesn't wanna pay cost because of geopolitical environment and increasing costs globally or whatever it is.
Or the fact that they've been carrying
and
our
they're
electric
and they're
because they were so
and they're
delayed.
changing the design for their own economic benefit. I don't care. So
Did we end up getting something in writing that indicated that that they were switching us to the Toshiba design?
is it
No.
in the amendment?
I'd have to go check, but I don't know.
I
would
believe
need to
there's
check.
an email chain too that talks about that change with.
Yeah, I
the-
mean, I think
Something
we
in
need to get
the
the answer to
amendment,
this in
but I
short
have to
order
go and
because
Okay.
if they're
Absolutely.
But this
trying to-
might be, we've been, now that we're talking this through, in all seriousness, now that we're talking it through, this might be the thing we need from a legal standpoint, because if this has been changed without our knowledge, I feel like there's something there. What, I'm not
Well,
sure, but something.
I mean, especially if we have an email saying that they're changing to an established design, right? So UL goes to the source of the component, not the system overall. So if they are still doing designs of the battery and need to get the battery certified, it's like you certify a power cord, you certify a power supply. You don't certify a computer to be UL, right? So that's certified to a whole bunch of other standards that says all of my other good stuff has UL certifications. So if we have an email that says that they're going to an established design and they're saying that they still have to go certify that design, I would say it's not certified and it's not an established design. Is there,
I'm trying to find the contract as we sit here.
I have it.
I was gonna say, is there a place where I can find the, I'll say, boatload of information on this?
I can send you the contract, and this one, I found it, I don't know if the amendment is attached to this one or not. That amendment might be in an email, I have to go back and find.
Energy storage systems shall be installed after solar during the summer break.
Of last year.
Summer.
I just don't know that we ever saw something that indicated that they were switching I know they told us that.
Well, if it's being, if our fire chief is not going to approve the design, why are we going down this path again?
Right.
You know, if that's answer has already been provided, it doesn't make a lot of
So
sense to
we
me.
need a lot more details
Okay.
of this, and we need to make sure that the design is aligned to what our expectations are,
Absolutely.
and that the fire chief is again on board with what this design is, because I don't want any more delays or unanticipated
Absolutely.
delays.
It's interesting.
Thank you, Jen.
It's interesting she said that it's being renovated. Because it wasn't built. The other one wasn't even built.
Yeah, I mean,
So are they considering
Joke.
being built, renovated?
so like with that though comes to, are they replacing the ceiling tiles or are they moving walls and they're installing clean rooms and new equipment? So they have to go get occupancy permits and.
This isn't our problem.
Yeah, no, it's not.
And they've had years to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, thank you for the update.
Sure. I will follow up with those, and certainly if you, at any point, if we want to have another meeting, I'm happy to schedule that. The other thing I wanted to go back to was under VR encumbrances. We've received a lot more quotes, still working on some, but we've updated the list and prioritized what we have on there so far. One thing I did want to talk about is the parking lot study that we had previously discussed for LMS. I spoke to Kevin Brown, as you had recommended, which was a fantastic contact. And so he indicated, as far as like a study goes, because he is going through something different over at the transfer station and all the work that they're doing over there. He said that really it's not a worthwhile thing to do a study or to even put this out to bid, because there's basically one option.
Right.
So, he has, actually, he had offered to reach out to them for us, and he said he'd be happy to, like, when they come over to see the place, for him to be there as well, to kind of assist with anything that we need. But essentially, he said that he thinks what's probably gonna be the outcome of this is it's gonna be a similar job to what they have at the transfer station. So we're looking at probably somewhere in the ballpark of between $200,000 and $300,000 to redo this.
Yep.
He doesn't think that there's actually a lot of drainage issues underneath, as we had thought. He does not think that that's the issue at all. He said that we had replaced some of our catch basins, and that's great. Everything seems to be going well with that. But he did say that, you know, there are some, if we wanted to think about doing this job maybe at the end of next year, that perhaps we could work together, because he has some other jobs that he needs to do. Perhaps we could line that up so that we could make that more efficient and maybe cut down on some of the cost.
Yep.
So I didn't want to take this off of here without explaining that first, but we are gonna take down the $25,000 that we had in here for the study.
That's great. Thank you.
Sure.
Is there, so I know we don't have to do a study. Is there any preliminary work that would need to be, or that could need to be done on that we should be?
I don't think so, but I will double check with that. He's gonna get back to me next week when he speaks to Continental, so we'll that for sure.
When we had talked with David Ely for the construction and the setup information, there was a question of whether if we touch the parking lot, do we have to bring it up to compliance for Americans with Disabilities Act, because our parking lot does not meet that with the.
That was something that came up also, actually, I think, with the on-site insight report. So that is
I'm
something we're
sure
gonna have to address.
the
Sure
paving
we will.
company has lots of experience with this.
I would bet from the estimate on the on-site insight, that's the difference, because they do everything to current standards.
Right.
And that was like $100,000-something. And I bet you Kevin's thinking that we do have to bring it up to those codes, which is gonna add the work, so why it's gonna be a $200 to $300 estimate on that, or $200,000 to $300,000 estimate on
Right.
that, so, yeah. The rest of here is, so if you wanna click on the link to the encumbrances, as Julie mentioned, we've been updating this as we finalize quotes and we prioritized, and, these are just by price by priority, is the sort on it currently. This is up for discussion. This was our, feelings on prioritizing some of this stuff, and, but obviously it's the will of the board ultimately. We don't have to finalize this today. We do probably next meeting. So,
Next meeting is a definite.
Yeah.
Right? And how are we intending to cover the food service deficit? That's
So
through
we-
transfer?
yeah, so we have to do that when we do the budgeting. You are assuming less revenue. Now, what you do is you eventually transfer to cover that lost revenue that you don't have in the food service account from your Fund 10 account. But it's part of the budgeting process. How we do in this district is it's part of the budgeting process when you're budgeting expected revenue to the district. So Doug did last year's with this. He had put in about $100,000 as not as revenue we would not receive from food services to represent the loss of being in the red essentially for food services. So we've had that in the back of our head as we've been going through everything this year, that would need to be generated somehow. As Lauren mentioned, she's expecting about $85,000 of that. Still have a couple weeks left finalizing some things and bills and collecting money and things. So we have the money to do that. So that would be one, it's not on this list, but that essentially needs to be covered from our end of the year fund balance that we have in Fund 10 is to make
Plus
that up.
transfers to the reserve accounts.
Yes.
So we're voter
Yep.
approved.
So I think if I'm remembering right, it was the benefits one was a little over $2,000 as part of that. And then, this is just our list, but Doug left a really nice one that you guys used last year that we'll transfer this over. That includes those things. And I believe the other one was $200,000 for special education. That will go into that account as well from the warrant articles, yeah. Just to go over this list, our kind of number one priorities are safety/age things that kind of come up at both GMS and LMS in terms of bathroom repairs and physical structure repairs. The one variable here that is a level one that we're still waiting for the quote for, and the mason was in this week, is the exterior cracks up at CHS. That's going to be a pretty penny there, you know. So we're thinking $20,000 to $30,000 in there as well. So those would all be kind of those priority ones. I think you just deleted the study after you talked about it. But those would be kind of our priority one things that we would want to get, that we personally feel we should prioritize. Those HVAC units is the most expensive. Again, this is just done by cost. those need to be done in the portables over at GMS and some other things. If I can draw your attention to line 14 here, it's the panic doors is what they're called, but they're those things we've talked about in facilities that kind of, this is, the quote is for, and you can click on it, is for all the doors that go to the exterior. We don't need to do necessarily. I think the ones that you were talking about, so one by the first grade wing, as the most priorities, and then maybe CAF, maybe, like, we don't have to do every set of doors, you know, like the back doors that are running out to the field. Yeah, we don't want kids running out to them, but they're not running out into a highway, so that may not need this level door, but.
There are a couple doors that just don't have regular eyes on them.
Yeah.
We want to, like, in the connector hallway, there's one that kind of goes out into the maintenance alcove that doesn't get a lot of eyes on it. That would be one. And then more priority would probably be the one by between 30's building and room 10. Cafeteria door. I mean, it's always got eyes on it too, so there's not anything like that would be.
Now, there are some things that have different priorities here, but the same company does it. So, like I would say the PA horns at GMS and LMS would be kind of we would want to get that done for safety reasons. Like, that's very important. Not quite as important would be the panic doors and some of the camera upgrades, just because we've lived without them, you know, and like, it's okay. I don't want to minimize their importance, but if we are prioritizing, but that's all one source who's going to do the work. So we may want to think of grouping that together, you know, by that kind of vendor, because they're all going to do the work for us. And
Can you remind me, with the panic doors, is there any ability to like reuse or salvage? Is it components, or is it like, could it be reused if we renovate the school?
It's possible.
Or is it sunk cost?
no, there's parts of it. Yeah. Yeah. And there, you might be able to, so it's an alarm system that comes up into the door. You might be able to take components of it and reuse in a renovation. The actual, like, bars that go across, they will be customized to the doors there, so may or may not. But the alarm system itself is potentially, especially if we continue to use, you know, one source in the camera systems there, that we could potentially use that over.
Yeah, the contact switches, the switch box, everything that goes with the alarm system.
So I guess we'll open this up to discussion for all of you. If there's anything that we don't have on this list that you're looking for, or if you have different feelings on priorities or anything along that.
Where's the LMS gym?
Yes, we got clarity on that. That is not,
I changed the wording on it. 'Cause
yeah, it's a refinish. It's not a tear it up and redo type of thing. We were,
Recoding.
we were incorrect in how we were describing that last meeting.
That was not refinishing for $2,200.
Yep.
So you mentioned that there's some stuff that's all by the same vendor. With these quotes,
They're all separate.
I was gonna say they're quoted separately, not combined.
Correct.
Okay.
So we get it by one job at a time.
Yep.
I mean, their labor is part of it, right? So you're gonna see potentially a little bit additional cost, because if they're doing this thing and then doing that at the same time, you know, they're gonna do it at the same time, like if they're up in this panel rewiring.
Right.
So it could be a little bit cheaper packaged together than
Yeah,
separate, but the quotes
I
are
mean,
by individual things.
Typically, I see that where, like, their trucks are already there, their tools are already there, right? It's already planned. You'll see something like a 10 to 12% efficiency just because they don't have to move people around.
One thing, sorry, I meant to mention this before we go too far on this. One of the things we added, and Jen is the one who suggested this, I kind of like the idea the more that I've sat on it. So it's line number 20 here. So there's a law going through, a bill going through right now that could end up banning cell phones in schools, right? And then it will be up to school districts and how you go about ensuring that law is followed. So that's gonna be tricky, right? Like to make, and we don't know what the final bill is gonna look like, and there's a lot of variables there. So, but if it does become a law, or even if it doesn't become a law, it's not the worst idea to entertain banning cell phones in our schools, particularly at the middle school level, where they can create some issues from time to time. So, Jen, yonder pouches are kind of the most common things that you may have heard about them, but they're very, very expensive, these yonder pouches. So Jen found these cell phone cabinets. If you click on the quote, it will take you to the website that kind of shows you, it should take you, there it goes, to a picture of them and what they kind of look like. And I kind of like this idea. So the model would be, you know, they're in their first period class, their homeroom, right? They put it in there.
With
Go.
next, do you want me to?
Yeah, come on up. Explain.
So cell phones have been a huge problem at the middle school, the entire time I've been there. We started with off and away, then we went to off and on your person, but what we see happening still at this point is cell phones are a huge distraction. If we want our test scores to improve, our kids have to be in classes. And the number of minutes and times and kids that are going on a steady parade to the bathrooms all day, every day, and going every period, and it's not to use the bathroom, it's to go make TikToks, it's to go play a game on their phone, it's to go sit in the toilet and see the glow coming from behind the screen because they're playing a game in the bathroom.
Snapchats.
They're making Snapchats, they're texting to get picked up because they don't want to be in school at that moment in time. What we want to do is kind of help to mitigate that and to help give them a reason to be in classes. I've talked to Pelham Middle School, who instituted the Yonder pouches this past school year. They said the kids are happier, there's less bullying, there's less teasing, there's less issues, it's just kids are in school and they're there to learn. We all survived school without a cell phone on our person. Every classroom has a phone in it. If there was an emergency, there is that phone for that use and that purpose. The teachers would have access to the cell phone cabinet should there need to be an emergency to access that. The kids could get it during the day if there was an emergency. But I would really love to see us try something else because off and away isn't working. We can say it, we can do it, but every time I see a kid and their pocket is glowing or they're walking to the bathroom, some of the teachers have them put them on the desk. That's not secure, it's not safe. I've seen in other districts where they take the cheapo pocket charts and hang it on the board, but that first pocket chart that falls off the wall, there's thousands of dollars in cell phones that are smashed on the ground. And we just don't want that to happen. We want the kids' devices to be secure and safe. When they come in next year, all 4 grades are going to have their Chromebooks on the cart so that they're charged and ready for working and learning. And they'll put their phone in the cabinet, take their Chromebook, and at the end of the day, they'll put the Chromebook back in and they'll take their phone and they'll be all set.
Yeah, so we're trying to think if this becomes a law, how do we do it? And this was an interesting idea. I would not advise doing this at the high school level because there's a different, really just purpose for cell phones with the older students. Some of them legitimately need their phones on them because they're getting updates from work, like if their hours change for work, or they're supposed to, in theory, be more mature and handle the responsibility of a cell phone a little bit differently. Where I would not advocate taking this type of step for high school age students because of just the different maturity level for that group. But I think this could be a creative solution for that middle school aged here. So the proposal there, the quote is for 30 of these, so 1 for each classroom at LMS. They're bigger. You can fit 36 phones in them. There won't be 36 on any given time, but it's secure, and it sounds like there could be a nice system in place. So this is something just to think about as that law kind of progresses. I, as a school administrator, have been really like, how are we gonna follow this law? How can we show we're taking it seriously and doing this? And this could be a very tangible way to show that we take that bill seriously, that law seriously, and these are kind of the action steps we put in place to try to kind of enforce it.
The Yonder pouch.
Just
So you get the burner phones that go in there.
I mean,
and
that's
the
the
real
thing,
phones
so-
in a bag. And
Yeah, so at Bo
always
we
gonna
do
be the
that.
problem.
At Bo they
Yeah.
did the thing. This is a high school, different age, right? They did the shoe rack on part of the door, and that's exactly what happened. Is a kid would put like an old iPod that looks like a phone in the shoehorn and keep their actual cell phone like on themselves and stuff like that. So you gotta be conscious of those type of things, but.
you
Look,
can only
kids
do
are
so
gonna be
much.
kids.
I mean, well,
Yeah,
that's the
kids-
thing. I mean,
yeah.
you can only enforce so much, but
So that's an idea to kind of help with that.
Just to give you the price differential for the Yonder pouches, it's about $30 a phone versus this is $132 or $152 for the
$152.
full case.
Yeah, it's a little about $5,500 when you factor in shipping and stuff like that. So just an idea.
Amazing, given that the pouches are literally just sewn pouches, but I'm looking at
Well,
them
they're
right
the RFID pouches blockers. The Yonder pouches have the RFID blocker, so it blocks the signal.
They also have a whole list of phone-free spaces, including workplace, hospital. Can you imagine going to a hotel? They're like, put your phone in this.
I'm gonna tell you, I've been to Broadway shows where you have to put your
Yeah, I
phones
mean,
in
that's
those
a-
pouches
Yeah.
because they don't want you to record.
Do you think that? I mean, not that it's a socialization thing, but do you think that parents are gonna be upset by that?
I think they are, but I think it's a battle worth fighting. Again, thinking about the amount of time kids are out of classes right now, I can tell you we have had an off and away policy that is in our handbook for 3 years at least.
Do we enforce it?
When we get it, they have to turn it in the office. They have to have parents come to pick it up if it's more than 2 times. Yes, we enforce it. But at the same token, kids are always going to find a workaround. Kids are. I'm going to say we've had a huge uptick and have been working with Mrs. Chambers on the number of kids that text to route around going to the school nurse to get dismissed. Come get me. I don't want to be here. I got a math test next period. Come pick me up. Well, that's not a good, healthy strategy for kids to learn how to deal with anxiety and coping with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have to help support them through that versus just, I'm coming to get you.
Your question's spot on. It's a controversial topic, right? Some parents, for safety reasons, right? If there's an emergency at school, they want their kids to have a phone for, not that they work in the buildings because of the blocks anyways, but whatever. But I think it's just one of those things we have to think through and be mindful of as we make decisions here.
I do think the trend has shifted, where I would say pre-COVID, and immediately after COVID on the return, if you said you were going to take the phones away from the kids, you were going to get a significant pushback from families. And I say that I feel like that has changed. Like, there's a reason it's a bipartisan bill, right? Like, there is a lot of studies now showing how phones are hurting kids in schools, right? And hurting their learning, hurting their ability to handle challenging situations, being just a distraction, how schools that implement something significant, such as a yonder pouch, something, see major declines in bullying and harassment and increases in academic success. So I do think there's enough data out there where, I'm not saying every parent's going to be thrilled about it, but I think more and more people are understanding that they are causing issues in school, and we need to take more proactive steps to prevent that.
And there would always be workarounds for a case-by-case basis. For
100%.
example, if there's a student who needed their cell phone for a
Insulin,
diabetic monitor,
yep.
insulin monitor.
Yep. And you know, part of it is the education. We talk about the high school age, you know, and you look at the progression over the 4 years, like, I've definitely observed where the phone is a legitimate tool in the classroom, right? Like, you know, they're in an AP physics class and they're doing an experiment and they're measuring time or something like that, and they're using their phone, right, as part of that component, because that's what they're going to do in the world, you know, in the real world and stuff like that. But that's an education piece that should come along with cell phones as well, that we're showing students the appropriate times, modeling the appropriate times of doing that, and the pieces for it. So, but middle school, I mean.
So in terms of encumbrances, is there anything from the board that is clearly just a non-starter, or anything from the board perspective that you expect to see that you don't see?
I mean, I think I know that you rank these in terms of severity, but I know the removal of the ropes course is pretty much I mean, obviously we gotta see what the quote is, but I think we're pretty determined to get that done, right?
Yeah, and we budgeted money in our
We have budget for next year.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
I think my only question is that, and again, we won't know for certain what our fund balance is until we get a little bit closer and we have an idea, but you don't know for sure. I see, you know, amongst the level 1 and the level 2, and then it seems to go in the highest dollar amount to the lowest dollar amount. I think maybe that's fine for category 1 because those are all safety needs, but if we start to get down to it in category 2, is this order the order you're thinking, or would you move like something that's $2,700 up?
Yep.
Even though I don't know. So that's my only question is, like, if we start to get down to it and we're trying to figure out what's higher priority, you know, again, like I said, level 1s are all fine.
Or grouping things.
Yeah, I just want to understand them a little bit.
Yeah,
but-
we can provide that, because that is definitely true. Like, with some of these relatively cheaper things, I would value more than maybe
Right,
something
and
else, even though
that's-
they're in the same kind of subcategory and stuff like that.
I
Yeah.
trust your guys' judgment when it comes to this stuff. So if you're telling me that you think it's more important to have the $600 LMS refinish this stage floor compared to the carpet replacement or, you know, whatever, and not that you wanna compare, but if
Yeah.
what you guys think are more important, you know, between you and the admin team, I would trust your judgment on
Yeah,
that.
like, for example, in that priority twos, again, these are all priorities, I don't wanna minimize
Yeah,
it, but like,
Agreed.
honestly, I think probably of that sub list, the most important thing, and Dan jump in, would be the room divider, even though it's not the most expensive thing. Like, if you look at something you need in your building next year, having that room divider.
I mean, the room divider or the classroom.
Yeah,
carpet, I mean,
Yeah.
right, so those
Right,
things
so
are not
that's
as
just kinda
essential.
understanding it.
First grade is
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be built into the budget rotation anyway, but yes.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no, there's nothing on here that jumps out at me as being a hard no, and there's, you know, again, just based on the amount of money that's gonna be left over to make the decisions on the rest.
All right, well, more to come at our next meeting, where we'll certainly go through these. I would anticipate going through them one by one and taking board action.
Just quickly on the cell phone thing, does this just encourage watch use at that point? Like, is this just gonna move it from
Possibly.
every kid has a cell phone to every kid now has a watch?
Many of the policies address that as well, the watches would go on the cabinet too.
Okay, all right. I'm again thinking as a parent in terms of if I want my kid to be able to contact me, even though you're saying they shouldn't, and I'm the parent, I'm gonna give them a watch then. And then are we gonna move into, you know, where does it, there's a ring now, isn't there? I don't even know, like, where does it all stop?
It's a brain implant.
Yeah, right?
I don't know about you guys with the younger kids, but my second grade daughter legitimately asked me the other day when she's getting her phone.
Yeah.
And I laughed at her, but like, I think she asked because she has friends
Friends
who are
who have
getting
it.
phones.
Yeah.
Like, and to each their own, but just my daughter will never have a cell phone. So.
My second grade,
Well,
second
I
grade
mean-
daughter has asked for a cell phone and now an iPad.
Well, let's keep it moving here. So, Dr. Taylor, you're up for curriculum.
All right. So, grants update. There's been a lot of things happening, obviously, with the state of where everything is up at the federal level in terms of changes with the federal Department of Ed. So, our grant allocations have been really tied up. We keep getting that we'll get them. We signed the general assurances finally, but we still have yet to get our ESSA preliminary allocations. The IDEA allocations did come out last week, Sarah, a couple weeks ago.
No, last Friday.
It was last Friday. Oh yeah, like late in the afternoon. They're like, oh, here you go. We need to do the consolidated app. Everybody has an extension to July 1st, but we can't do it without the ESSA the ESSA preliminary allocations. We're just waiting in limbo, but we should be getting in the next couple weeks. So they said, so hopefully we'll get that so we can get that consolidated app done by July 1st. And things have been going actually really well in terms of grant spending. The 23-24 Title II grant still had quite a bit of money left, and we had to get that spent down by September 30th. I have it spent down to $170 by now, which is really good. So it was funny. I was talking to the Title II person at the state, and she's like, "This is awesome. Like, you know, you're really spending." I'm like, "Yeah, we don't leave money on the table, ever." So it's going good, but we're just waiting for those allocations. And once we get them, we'll update you when we have them. So just a quick CIA update. There's been a lot, as you guys have known, throughout the year happening in the CIA world. The Learning Outcomes Task Force actually we pushed out our first deliverable, and it was a brand new committee. I commend all of the people on it and all of the work that they did, really digging into figuring out where we needed to focus our concentrations, and the committee focused on assessment, and we really dug into the depth of knowledge portions because that's really where it starts. And so the first deliverable that went out the beginning of this week was a kind of a DOK refresher infographic, which came out really cool. We want to patent it. Sarah's on that committee too, because it looks really cool. And we're hoping that it will help people just kind of think more about their questioning, and not just their assignments, but what kinds of questions they're asking and what kinds of tasks they're asking students to do. We're going to be doing more on that next year, so we already have a plan starting at the very beginning of the year to continue in that work, which is really great. So again, thank you to the members of that task force. Last Thursday at 3 o'clock, I think I fell on the floor because I finished the 9th vertical alignment meeting of the year, for the content, for every single content area. It was amazing, great work, and I was like, whew, all right, I am well versed in all content area standards now, which is fantastic. But I had amazing meetings with all of the content areas. We dug into a lot. Everybody is level set in understanding of what is happening and where we're going and all of that kind of stuff. So we can really capitalize and keep moving forward as we move into into next year. This summer, or at the end of this month actually, I'm doing a full day training of UFly with K-2 teachers, special ed, whoever signed up to come, because it's obviously after school lets out. And then I have 2 days with math and ELA, 2 days with social studies and science, and there's several teachers that have signed up to do that vertical alignment work. We didn't get enough UA subsections to sign up to hold a full day for UA, so we're going to continue that in a different light, but just kind of an overhaul of what has been going on in the CIA world. It's been really good. I did just quickly put together some preliminary data. I'm not going to go into all of it with the SAS because the window's still open until the 6th, so the end of the week. Most of our students have finished and don't need the makeup, but I was happy to see that overall we are up a little bit in math, we're up a little bit in ELA, and we are even in science overall. So when I put all the overall district data together, nothing went down. We went up. So that's yay to everyone. Good job. I'm excited. And I'll dig into more of that because, again, it's just preliminary to look at that. So that's the CIA update. The DLS update. The DLS job description is linked. And when I came here and I started meeting with Karen, and her and I had started working on things together, and we've done so throughout the year, and we really started to think more about this position and what this position is and what this position should be and could be. And through lots of conversations, I talked with Brian, we talked with Holly, we talked with Chris, I talked with Karen. There's been a lot of conversations on how do we leverage this position more than, it's not just tech integration. It's really curriculum, because right now, as we all know, a lot of our curriculum comes through a device, right? And if it doesn't, like, how could, like, the work that she did with kindergarten with Cubeto, you guys saw the video and what amazing things these kindergartners are doing. So there's just been a lot that we have seen that, and it got me thinking, like, I really want to capitalize on this and keep moving forward. So had conversations, and we would like to move the DLS position to report to me and be in the curriculum department as opposed to be in the technology department, and just kind of shift a little bit of the purview so that we can really continue the momentum in the vertical alignment work, in instructional shifts in pedagogy and all of that kind of stuff. and not just thinking of the DLS as a part of the technology department. Can you set up my projector for me type of thing. So I made some changes to the job description. I just did it in suggesting mode. I don't know if you guys can see the suggestions. Can you see them?
Oh.
Oh, sorry. All right,
Just a
let me
second.
tell you what they are. So
They're minimal.
in the reports too, it just says instead of the school principal and her director of technology, she would report to me, the director of curriculum instruction and assessment. And then under visionary leader, performing other tasks are everything is basically instead of reports to the did you just
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. I'm doing it right now. Don't worry.
Wait,
Give me a
all of them
second.
went away.
Give me a second. Just give me a second.
Okay.
It's
Are
coming.
you gonna know where all the changes are?
Yeah.
'Cause he's, like-
Because
Yes.
they're that.
So
Minimal.
I'll just keep going. So it just says, so collaborates with administrators and teachers to use technology within the curriculum. We added within the curriculum because we're really going to keep going through that this is curriculum and it's instruction and it's assessment. How do students take their assessments? On the computer. And when I was talking more with Karen, I'm implementing a brand new literacy foundation program in K-2, which is UFly, which I've talked about. And where do the teachers get all their stuff? On the computer, all the slide decks, everything. And I'm creating a digital binder. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could have Karen create the digital binder and she can go in and teach the teachers how to use the digital binder so that I can teach the teachers about the actual program and focus on that part of it. So that's what we would like to propose to change change the DLS from being part of the tech department to being part of the curriculum department and reporting to me.
So if you go click on it, I just bolded the changes, and they're very minimal in the big things. And it is just as Sarah said, it is really just changing who this position reports to from an evaluation standpoint. So Dr. Taylor, or the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, would be the primary evaluator rather than Director of Technology. There would still be a lot of involvement with the technology department. It's not like this person's not going to work in the technology department.
Yeah, we are. I talked to Chris, and we have already planned that we're going to meet the three of us 3 times a month, so that we can make sure everybody's on the same page. Because Chris and I have talked a lot about needing to align things too. Because people will come to him for some software, and then he'll be like, "Should we be using this software for curriculum?" You know, so it's all integrated together.
Yeah, so just update real quick so you can see the suggestions. The bolded italics is the change, or the slight addition to what it is. There's about 4 areas here that change, and 3 of the 4 are just changing from Director of Technology, Director of Curriculum Instruction. So much of the position would stay the same. It is just coming down to who is it reporting to and doing the evaluation plan for. So this is a proposed change. We don't have to finalize it tonight. You can obviously think about it, but we wanted to make that suggestion tonight.
Any thoughts, questions, comments?
That's good.
No, I'm good with it.
I worry a little about the manpower with technology, but it doesn't sound like this position was.
We're still gonna help.
I'm just picturing the chart that Chris had for us back at budget time, where he's like, "This is how many people I have, and this is how many an average." Right. So is this?
Well, I talked to him before we did.
Sure. Of
you know,
course.
we had a conversation, and he agreed that this was a better direction because she does not support like IT stuff. That's not the scope of what she does. So she does more like pushing into classrooms and really supporting in the, like, if we have software, like for example, the middle school, we purchased Newsella for them. And that's a digital social studies ELA science platform, and she was integral in helping teachers understand how to use it, how to navigate it, how to incorporate it into their instruction as a supplement to what they're doing, etc. So it wasn't tech focused, it was curriculum focused and instruction.
I get it, and I get the role. I think the scope difference for me is, you know, the way this role was positioned was Chris needing support, Mr. Jamrog needing support for him to do his day job. And I think the scope, even though the angle is changing, I think the scope of this and what maybe the roles evolved into is different than I think what I expect the role to be. And that's what I'm struggling here with.
Yeah. I think that's a valid question and feeling, not being here when the position was originally proposed, right? Like, I look at the title, digital learning specialist / technology integrator, right? And I think it's the same position. It's just like, what part of that / are you emphasizing?
Well, this was the person that was supposed to help with the Chromebooks and help with, you know, Chris's day-to-day job.
Yeah.
Is that what this one was?
That was my understanding.
This position? I thought that the position that he was seeking.
I thought it was one for each school initially,
Originally it was one for each school.
and then it was 2 went on the ballot, and we only got one. So, but yeah,
It's designed, her position originally was designed to be someone who supports the teachers in how to implement the technology.
That's what I. That's
Not
what
the bits and bytes stuff.
She's not about like, oh, my projector isn't working, how do I fix it? She can, but that's not her role. Her role is about how do you use that technology tied to the curriculum.
Right.
If you, I sent it in to the board earlier, but it didn't make correspondence tonight. We did and this was unrelated because I didn't even know it was on the agenda tonight, but we did a survey for Karen as part of our lit team in our building. So she works with Amy Provenzel and Kate Kramer, and our lit team travels around, and there was a survey that went out to all of our teachers about how they use Karen, and you'll see some of the quotes that are in there are about having her support the curriculum or ideas using technology within the curriculum to increase the rigor and increase that value. So it's what she does now.
Now to put it in perspective how this helps Chris, because I think that's a valid way to go about this. The director of technology role in different school districts is very different, right? There are some director of technologies that are very involved in the educational component of integrating the technology into what's going on in the classrooms, right? Like, that's where their specialty and background might be. That is not Chris's background of, like, he was not a teacher at any point. You know, he's a tech guy. He knows how to do the wiring. He knows how to make the system more efficient. He does those type of things. So I do think Karen helps with that aspect of that larger role of technology, that she's an expert in terms of how does the technology benefit the curriculum, where in some school districts, the director of technology is responsible for that type of work as well. So she is taking that off of Chris's plate from that technology director's seat. I do think in general, Chris continues to need more support,
Wasn't it
right?
another position though? Like, I thought he was asking for a different position.
I would assume, because he has brought it, well, we put on the ballot. Well, did we take it off when it was all said and done?
Yeah.
But we had the network administrator that we talked about at length about putting on as a warrant article earlier this year that would provide different support than even this role.
Well, that's
would do.
security.
That's security type
No,
of
but
stuff.
I thought he talked about I thought that he was looking for. No, not that.
No, he's looking for
I thought that
another
He was looking
Jameson.
for someone that, like another true just IT person.
Another
I thought he
tech.
asked for that.
Right.
My first budget year.
he did.
I'm assuming he asked for a tech assistant.
Tech integrate.
Well, not being here at those conversations, maybe this person can do some of that work. Wouldn't be shocked if that was part of the conversation that happened at the time, you know?
And reading this job description, when I read it, because, you know, Holly and Brian, they were like, do we need to change anything in the job description? All I added was the within the curriculum. Like, this was a job description that was.
I'm not opposed, don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to aligning the job description to the role that the individual, right, is playing. I'm not opposed to that. My hesitation and my concern is, hey, does Chris still have the support that he needs?
I don't think,
Right, that-
regardless of this change, Chris is gonna have the same support that he's had this year.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
think Chris is
Yeah.
gonna have,
But
I don't think his support changes.
Is this role and repurposing, even on paper, repurposing the spirit of this role? Is it taking away now a position that was intended to be for his support?
I
Well,
think,
this is what the position was described as. This is the original job description.
now, whatever the intent was, I cannot speak of. And whatever was told to you guys to sell this position, I cannot, I don't know, that sounds super.
No, back then it was always put that as it's connected to tech, but this is the leverage person. This is the person that goes into schools and leverages the technology to get used, not on necessarily on the tech side, but on the learning side. So if you remember, we talked about how all the curriculum programs now have a tech component. This person goes out and leverages that to get it into the classroom, whereas you have your tech team that deals with the bits and the bytes in the boxes. You know, they purchase the best ones, they deploy them, and then we needed the person to leverage it for learning, and was the gap that we filled with the digital learning specialist. We called it a tech integrator back then with the intention of that leverage point, and then the state came in and actually changed the title for certification to the digital learning specialist position.
That's the change.
Yeah.
Can we just think about it until?
Of course, that's why we just wanted to have.
I'm sorry you guys couldn't see the
No, it's
suggested
fine.
changes.
And again, it doesn't sound like there was that many changes. I just
No.
wanna wrap my head around the purpose.
We'll put it back on the agenda for next
Yeah,
year.
yeah, please.
Yeah.
And if it's a no, that's okay. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Again, if it's what you guys are
It's just a
recommending,
matter of
then.
me understanding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, public minutes, anything else from curriculum?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Public minutes for May 21st. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve them.
Motion by Mr. Shoemaker,
Second.
second by Mr. DeWitt. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, that carries 4-0. All right, now we have new business, and we have some policy discussion, but not first read.
No, so this isn't policy. This is, I want to whet your appetites a little bit, because we have, some things have come up over the spring. Nothing bad. Nothing bad. This is not bad. But we're gonna have new.
Sounds like you're trying to convince
Policy and
yourself.
procedures, so I'm going on with stuff.
I know, but there's not any proposals in
Okay,
here.
all right.
So, like, I don't want you to think that we're coming in to radically change the high school overnight or in June, late June, trying to propose all these changes. But I think we need to start having some discussions related to policies and procedures, related to some different grading assessment things at the high school. This is not being critical of certain practices. Some of these things are just because things have changed. For example, the link right there is policy IKF, which is our current high school graduation requirements. We need to update that because the Ed 306s have changed, so that needs to change. If we're gonna go through the process of updating that policy so it's in alignment with the 306s, and some of these are some literally semantic stuff, because, for example, the requirement now is specifically digital personal finance. That's the one I'm in my head. So we need to state that in the policy, that personal finance is a requirement because of the updated ED 306s. But if we're going to go and have some changes to this, it's worthwhile to have a discussion if there is other changes we want to look at these type of policies for. So, for example, high school graduation requirements, and I'm not proposing, I want to make this crystal clear, none of what I'm about to say is an official proposal. We would need to put teams together, involve different stakeholders and everything like that. But if we wanted to tweak our high school graduation requirements to more closely align with something such as a New Hampshire Scholars Program, which is a state-accepted set of courses that prepares kids for both professional and college post-secondary plans and stuff like that. Maybe we want to tweak this so it more aligns with that state scholar program. That could be something we have discussions about. That could potentially add, for example, the state scholars requirement is 4 credits of mathematics or math experiences, right? So something in here that highlights that type of maybe suggestion. We want to discuss that. I'm not saying we're going to do that, but those are the type of discussions we're going to start having. So I want to put this on the board's radar, that as we bring a new administration in, as specifically me, I'm a high school guy, as I get more comfortable in year 2, this might be stuff that we start really diving into. To go from a different thing with than the graduation requirements, I linked the student handbook in there, And there's lots of stuff here. I'm not going to go through every single line of every part of the student handbook. But this will obviously be part of Jen's work, is reviewing this and updating for the fall and stuff like that. And in terms of the academics, we have our grade scale in here, for example, right? And they're weighted grades where the college prep is, starts at a 4.0 for the A, and I'll use A as the standard here, right? That honors is a 4.5, and then the AP weight is a 5.0. If I was to ask you as a board, and I'm not putting you on the spot, why is it a 0.5 increase? Why is that the metric we use to increase that weight by?
Why is a half letter grade used?
But it's not a half letter grade,
Okay.
right? Because think about that grade scale, they're 0.33s that shift everything, right? Like an A is a 4.0, an A minus is a 3.67, a B plus is a 3.33.
But a B is a.
Is a 3.0, right?
Right.
So what is the logic? They're not equally split. Now, if the logic is we're basing it on the AP weight is going to be a 1.0 from that, great, but we don't articulate that, and no one could explain that to me. So we need to discuss these type of things and make sure that we're comfortable with these type of changes and these weights and everything like that. This is not a proposal to change that right away. This is not a proposal to do away with rated grades or anything along that. But we need to articulate the reasoning on why we're making some of the decisions that we're making here, I think. Because questions come up from families about why we make certain decisions on why an AP course is weighted. Why does my student have to take an AP exam to receive that AP weight? Those type of questions, and we need to articulate that either by policy officially, because there's not policies connected to there, or a little bit more clearly in how we do our student handbooks and of that type of nature. So that's work we have to dive in with our high school teams. Again, I'm not here to tell you that we're proposing radical changes to any of this stuff. Some of this might be just affirming the work that we do and making sure we're comfortable about it. But just to give you that grade weight thing as an example, at Timberland where I was, and this is committed to policy, you can go look it up, they were 0.33 increases, right? The college prep was a 4.0, the weight for the honors class was the A was a 4.33, and then the AP weight was a 4.67. So there was consistency across the grid in both directions, a 0.33 jump up and down, like when you looked at that. And that was the logic they used for that set of weighted grades. We do not have to follow that logic, that's not what I'm saying. But those are conversations we're going to have as we bring in new leadership with a focus on kind of assessment practices at the high school and stuff like that.
Obviously, like our new high school principal to weigh in on all this.
100%. So that's, we've talked about this already a little bit as she's been kind of coming on board. That's why there's nothing in here in terms of proposals, but this is going to be discussions happening. I don't want to catch anyone off guard if down the road we do have policies that we suggest, if there are procedures, when we get to the fall, late summer, early fall, when we're looking at our handbooks and reviewing them with the board and stuff like that. This is the work that's going to be happening over the summer and stuff. And if there are actual changes, there will be lots of discussions, right? Like, as an example, I'm not advocating for or against this, just like as an example, Bow High School has rolling grades. We have quarter grades here. If we were to propose some sort of change like that, there would be committees, there would be multiple people that would weigh, stakeholders that would weigh in on those type of decisions, and data representing that if that was something that we propose. I'm not proposing that at all, but just as a tangible example. So I wanted to start these discussions with you. One, if there's anything, particularly those who have high school students and are experiencing it, if you have ideas and thoughts about this, we are open. I'm sure you do. We are open to those discussions and how we approach these different practices. Another is our assessment practices with how they break down the summatives and the formatives and the percentage breakdowns. I believe it's the 85 and the 50.
We have strong
Exactly.
opinions on that as well.
So
I know.
I'm sure you do. I also have thoughts on that as well. As
Yes,
year one,
and as we do too. There's
Yeah.
been a lot that we just.
as year one ends and the era of observing kind of concludes and now action is going to start unfolding, like, we have to be transparent and open in these conversations and talk about some things. There will be things that we reaffirm because we do a great job of, and there will be things that we need to evolve on and change at all the schools, but we're talking high school at this exact moment. So I want to kind of throw that out there. We're open to the feedback and suggestions on how this is. When Jen officially comes on board here, when she wraps up all her responsibilities at Sanborn and we transition here fully, I would not be shocked if she seeks out input from specifically high school families. Grading and assessment is a strength of hers and a passion of hers, so I have a feeling she's jumping right into this with 2 feet and looking at some different things, so.
Yeah, and I think working with Val Nelson, our Director of Counseling, will be huge in terms of understanding historical perspective as well, you know, the why we do what we do and what that reason is. And
Yeah, and I think a question came up, I don't want to talk too out of turn, but I believe it came to the board itself, so I feel like it's okay to bring this question up, is that you can only receive the AP weight as if you take the AP exam. So why is that? That's not something I've experienced in other schools. Someone explained the logic to me, and I could see that perspective, but we don't have that in a policy. It's in the handbook, but it's not in the policy, right? Like, and that's something, as a board, I feel like I don't know if you weighed in at a time, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but like, let's reaffirm that if that's.
forward as part of the handbook changes, and it was one of the ones, you know, when we asked them to.
It was a couple of
do
years
the
ago, so
handbooks,
you know.
They highlight every area that they're changing and outline why, and there was a lot of students who were not taking the AP exam,
Yeah.
who were only taking the class to get the bump.
Yep.
And then not taking the AP exam, and the purpose of it is generally to take the exam.
Yeah, and so talking through those type of things, right? Because those questions come up, it came from a good place. The issue was resolved easily, right? We evolved, not going to get into all details of the specific situation, but we took care of it. It was fine. But that's something that even if we refresh ourselves every once in a while on why we make these decisions, it's good for us. Because I do understand that logic. There was as you just explained, right? We wanted to get more buy-in on the students to take the exam. The curriculum of the course is preparing you to take that exam. That is the point of an AP course. And therefore, we want investment and buy-in from the students to take it. That is not a universal rule at every school. Every school's approach that differently, right? Particularly if an AP course is a dual enrollment course, there's a different set of parameters that come into that, right? But starting to have those conversations and being all on the same page with it all, so. So this is more just like a preview of things to come, and we are open to all feedback and suggestions from all that have opinions, and something we're going to be diving
Just as a
into.
reminder to the administration, we only have 1 meeting in July.
Yeah.
Do we need 2?
No, I don't think we're, because, you know. I mean, you know, that's a good question, and.
No, it's not.
And the answer
No, because the answer is you don't. Because anything that would be a significant proposed change is going to take time to really like digest into it.
That's the thing,
If we are more articulate in our explanations in the student of handbook on why we do some things, that's not something that necessarily needs a standalone meeting. If we all of a sudden are going to propose unweighting all of the courses, that's going to be 6 months of dialogue and
So you're gonna
multiple
have a
meetings.
committee on that,
Committee
and you're
and
gonna
all sorts.
have a
Again,
process
I'm
for
not
parent
proposing
feedback.
that.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm proposing.
You're gonna
But
get
if
50
it's
emails.
something, yeah, if it's something significant of that, you know, there's gonna be extensive work towards it. But I do, in the effort of transparency, want to identify that we want to examine some of these practices, and we are gonna be doing the work, and you might hear it constantly over the next school year, like with little tiny updates as we progress through some of these things, right? Like, we focus on this part of assessment, maybe it's the summative informative thing. I think that's the thing most universally people want us to look at, both inside the building and outside the building, right?
Back midterms and finals.
That's another thing we talked about, just me and Jen did, you know, no, that was me and you.
Yes.
Talked about briefly today, is what that would look like if we were reintroducing midterm and final format at the high school. I have not had that conversation with Jen yet, so, but those type of things is, we're focusing, kind of, gonna be focusing that on more, so, just to kind of whet your appetite a little bit on it.
Sounds good.
Thanks for the sneak preview.
Yeah, and and in complete transparency, I sit on the board for New Hampshire Scholars, so when I promote it, I do have some bias to it. I think it's a wonderful program, and a really powerful program that helps prepare kids. I just want to say that out loud so people know that I am biased towards that. So when I say aligning with it, that comes from bias. So.
Next up, old business, and we have GMS RFP update.
Yeah, so, you know, we had the pre-bid meeting. Dan attended yesterday as well, so weigh in at any point. I think we worry, is anyone going to show up? So, you just have that concern. But it was great. We had 11 people at the meeting last night, beyond us, representing 9 different firms as part of the pre-bid meeting. We went over kind of an overview of the project with everybody, and what we're looking for through this bid process. We did a tour of the elementary school with all the different parties, and then came back at the library to do some questions. But people were asking questions as we were walking around the tour and stuff like that. I feel like everyone who was there was invested because everyone was asking questions. Whether they end up bidding on the project, that's ultimately their decisions, right? But you definitely felt people were invested in being part of that meeting and not just going through the motions because their firm sent them or something like that. So I thought it was a good process. People asked some good questions about what we're looking for in our bids, and we felt really good at the end of that meeting that we'll have some bids to entertain. When the window closes. I don't know what you want to add, Dan.
No, I was surprised that 9 firms showed up. Just from my Google search, I thought there was like 6 that might. So I'm glad that 9 firms showed up. One of the things that I kind of highlighted was 3 of them mentioned a pre-construction manager from their firm. So not just working with, our person talks to every position start on their side. It's a point-to-point contact of you have a lead on our side, they have a lead on their side. They run down all of the subs, they run down all of the bidding, they run down all of the contracts and the design, and that way, and that's what I'm used to seeing. So that I was glad people mentioned it. I was glad that, it was actually 3 of them. 3 asked questions about it. 2 basically said, I would recommend that this would be a part of our offering. So I was encouraged to see that as well.
I thought we were going to hire Kay for that.
I haven't met her yet.
I just seen if you were paying attention. I heard, because I was really hoping to get there, but I could not get out of work. But I did talk to Dan Mitchell. He indicated that 3 of those firms were firms that bid on the last project.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And a 4th that was going to, but didn't because they had, honestly, had some sort of death in the firm that prevented them from bidding in it. So, yeah, exactly. So there's some repeat people who were here before and stuff.
I also heard that you had a lot of good input with them because there was a lot of dialogue that your expertise
very
really helped
appreciate
with.
that Dan was there. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that. I don't know what the content was, but I'm glad.
I didn't think it was anything out of the ordinary. I mean, they were just impressed that someone from the community, like before I was elected to school board, someone from the community who's been involved for going on a year to talk about the project from a community perspective. There was, honest, why am I involved? Why am I invested? And what was my background as to make me relevant to the conversations? But then a lot of it was just heading off other questions so that way Dan just wasn't bombarded by 11 people asking him questions. Mm-hmm. So,
and it was great because you have some of the technical knowledge that we just don't have the same depth of, right?
Yeah.
Like that pre-construction manager question, we both turned to you, and because we were just like, yeah, we think that's good, and then when you're like, yes, that's good, it's like, yes, okay, good, we were right.
Yeah, because essentially it's that, or they come out with an estimator, right? So then you get a guy that's at somewhere at the firm that's going to go, well, that's going to be roughly this, that's going to be roughly this, which essentially we've got that with On-Site Insight.
Yeah.
And Kyle Barker did it at some level for us as a Faith of Goodwill as well. So it's just, we want someone that can help manage the firm and the responses from the firm. We don't want to try to take that on. We don't have the time or the ability to.
I also in the questions timeline. Was there any talk amongst the?
We outlined the timeline that we were hoping to get this in, and we acknowledge it's a tight timeline, but no one seemed to give it any pause per se. We didn't get any questions along it, like we outlined.
What is the timeline that was communicated?
The one that we went over at the board meeting with the March 2026 is kind of the goal of putting this on the ballot, and then going backwards from there when we would need to put a bond kind of proposal in, all the way back to like this bid needs to be in the July 3rd. We get into that agreement, work over the summer about fine tuning, going back and forth on different plans and different ideas for this. for in the fall bringing a proposal to the board in terms of what the project would look like and stuff like that. No one gave us any questions around the timeline, or there weren't any initial facial reactions that we were crazy with that sort of timeline. We'll see how I think we have a 2-week window where they can ask questions of us before that closes, right? So we'll see if we get any follow-up questions, but we haven't gotten anything originally. So we'll see. It is a tight window, and we acknowledge that with them. But it seemed like something that could be, not just could, but, people seem comfortable with delivering on that timeline. So, yeah.
That's
Good.
The only questions that I got is, what do we mean by 50% state drawings?
Yeah.
It's different in different industries, right? So a lot of it is, the way that I phrased it was, we need a good enough design set to say your number will not exceed this without like applicable inflation rates and stuff like that. And it seemed like people understood what that meant.
Yeah. Because, just from the most recent project, watching the Bow one, they had that number.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they were actually, ahead, right, they weren't spending as much as they thought. They could go back to their list and add some of the things because they were not approaching their do not exceed number. They were actually less than what they were projecting. I mean, that was a great scenario for them. I'm not saying that's where we're going to be, but that would be wonderful if we're continuing to be under that number. So.
And we definitely mentioned, like, we want an open conversation. This isn't,
Yes,
we
stress
hand
that.
you a series of files, go give me a design and a plan.
Right.
We want the conversation back and forth. We want, late night phone calls. I know it's all gonna be an hourly charge relatively, but we would rather have that and get it done right and get it done the first time than have to go back again and again and again.
And we stress that we want transparency with our public, and we want to make the best use of our facilities, coupled with the financial needs, coupled with the educational needs, right? So for simplicity's sake, for this discussion right now, a renovation project that's exclusive to GMS versus a renovation project that results in reconfiguration of the schools, we want to have dialogue around those kind of options, that we're making sure that for the community, we're making the right decision when putting all of those variables and factors together. And people seem to understand that that's what we were looking for. There was a follow-up question, a couple follow-up questions about that. Good questions about using LMS. We were like, nope, you're not touching LMS. It's the high school that would be the one that is in question here. And a good question was asked, if you're going down that road, should we factor in other upgrades or fixes that you would need at the high school? And we used the roof as an example, right? Because it's meeting the end of life expectancy. And we explained, we have our capital reserve funds that we're starting to put money away from to address those things. So this project's not necessarily addressing those. This is to solve GMS issues. And if we utilize Campbell as part of that solution, we do. But it's not to address Campbell's structural issues and stuff. So good questions, good dialogue. So.
All right, so this will be on the agenda for July 3rd.
For our meeting's July 9th in July.
Okay,
The
that's
bids are due on July 3rd.
Got it.
So that's the Thursday before the 4th, obviously. And then we'll have the bids for the board to review as part of that July 9th meeting, and obviously part of the agenda we send out
Right.
for that meeting. So
Do we have another meeting in June?
for the
Yes.
board,
For school board, yes.
yes, on the 18th.
Time flies. I probably should have called school board comments before the GMS update, but the time is now 8:12, so I'll open it up for our second round of community input. I'm saying school board comment, but community input. So I'll open around second round of community input this evening.
Running to the microphone right now.
Hey, I just want to acknowledge it's 8 p.m. All right, I'll close our second round of community input, and now I'll move into school board comments.
The only thing that I'll make a comment on, and Matt and I, for the history of the FIC that we've been involved, have been kind of pretty aligned on this. I really do think we need to start investigating into a PR firm to help get what we're doing with GMS and the work that we've done out there. We tried to do it through previous means and it hasn't worked. I think we really need, and I would also say that should probably start
Now.
soon, now, to help us get the message out there, get highlight all the work that we're doing, show the transparency, help take on some of the stuff, and yada yada yada, all that stuff. But that's something that I think we should be trying to approach.
Yeah, that's what we really kind of ran short on that at the last one. And actually being involved previously, there was someone that was hired to do that on the last project, and because I was dealing with that person directly a lot, my impression was that person was essentially just looking for a community member to go out there and do it. Like, we definitely need an actual firm that will actually develop a strategy, develop the content. We can't do another Litchfield special where we're trying to find community members who can volunteer their time for that.
I mean, and this could be something of, they see something posted on, the What's Up page. They link appropriate, real information, right? So they can help quell the rumors. This could be getting the mailers out. This could be doing community outreach and surveys and, group surveys. So where it's not a school board member going out, it's not a committee member that's associated with the school board and that type of stuff. They can reach the community in ways that the schools potentially don't have.
I get the importance of having the marketing and the PR behind it. I kind of feel like it's a waste of money.
Oh my God,
my
it's
initial
not.
reaction. People already know about this project.
It's not, but it's not about knowing. It's about it's the rumors and everything. It just all churns up. Like, the second you get a new thing on the table, it's like, well, they didn't look at this, or well, they did, and it became, because I was trying to do a lot of it, and I just was not. I can't do it, right? Like,
I feel like the community's already very passionate about this topic. Right, we've sent out community-wide surveys. We've done that, right? The town was very vocal when it was on the ballot. People know that this is out there. We've been very transparent that our plan is to go back in March of 2026 with another option to the voters.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so I think there's already an understanding that we're doing our due diligence. We've put together an FIC, a cross-representation of a collective of town. I feel like we've done that.
So I can tell you, before I even got involved with the FIC, when all those 9 different options, I had no clue that 9 different options were looked at before the new GMS building was sent out.
Well, I can't help you with that.
But even if I go to even if I went to the GMS website, I couldn't find it.
Yeah,
So-
can we get a quote? We did.
Well, I think we could ask around and see what different districts have done for different projects, right?
Yeah.
Just the one I live in, the one I worked in, right? In Bow, we never did any PR for the projects, but they also kind of knew the projects were going to pass, right? And so anything that was done was in-house. Some flyers were done, some basic stuff. Some videos were made, but it was all in-house, employees kind of doing it. Where I'm assuming from how polished it was when Wyndham went through their major renovations to their school facilities. I don't know this factually, but that was not just some school personnel putting some stuff together out that they must have. I will confirm that, but there had to have been a PR firm involved in that thing. It's a different district, different project. There was multiple schools, so we can definitely look around and ask around other districts that have done these type of level projects and the level of PR firms or PR people that they brought on board to do it, and what the cost estimates were, that to get an idea. Because I hear both sides of this kind of argument. We've been talking about this exhaustively, even in my year of being here. And I feel like people are very aware of what is going on, and we've been very transparent. I feel like we have an update about it almost every board meeting of some capacity, right?
What percentage of
Yeah,
people
yeah.
watch the board
Yeah,
meetings?
Yeah.
Or read the minutes.
And all of that. But at the same time, there is value in PR sometimes, in putting out a structured plan, even if it's a consultant who helps us create the structured plan of do this at this time because this
We
is
can
the
execute.
appropriate.
I'm going to be honest with you though. It's also the doing it. It's too much. It's too much.
Too much for you, right? But is there a way that we can? Not you. I don't mean that.
No, you
negatively,
mean
but-
us, right?
the board.
As having other jobs, but
Correct.
But I also
can
think,
we utilize the people in our building? Renee is great at stuff. Just as an example, right? Very organized, does a nice job at putting things together, has a passion for for making things look nice and presentable. I mean that as a real positive, you know. Can we utilize her in that capacity in a way and give her some focus on specifically this project, right? Is there other people in our district who have some ability to help us with these type of things? I don't know, but like maybe that's what we want to ask around.
So I guess maybe PR firm is the wrong way to frame this, right? I think we are going to need help to help stop the rumor mill because it just takes off, especially on the.
We're gonna have that.
But I mean, just someone that can, that their job part-time, right, is to go through the different avenues of social media and say, hey, you know what, that's not right. Here's the link to what they're doing. And here's the link in the information as of last month, what the plan is and how they're doing it.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Maybe we can utilize some of our people. So with Renee, who runs the social media account for the district, like the Facebook page, I don't have Facebook, so I've literally never even seen it, to be honest, except when she spins her computer around to show me something, right? She will from time to time. I'm not saying it's a regular thing all day long, but if someone does make a comment on a post and it's not accurate, she will respond. Right? And
Right.
with corrected information, and usually in a very pleasant, sunny demeanor if you've ever met Renee. And that can be where we utilize her, who has a strength because of what she's done previously professionally, you know, to leverage her in a way to do some of those things, is to be more on the prowl for negative information, and then not even negative, but incorrect information, and then providing school district approved information that responds to those type of comments or misinformation that's out there and stuff like that. But I think it's worth, you know.
Point taken.
Yeah, 100%.
More to come.
That's your patented saying. More to come.
More to come. All right, just more comments from my side. I'd like just to congratulate all the graduates, right, and all those with a plan moving on to the next chapter, whatever that chapter is. Congratulations on behalf of the board, and and thank you to all the district administration as you work together to close out the remainder of this school year. So well done.
Yeah, and great job with your first year here. I mean, you guys.
It's
really
not over yet, don't. A lot can go wrong in the next 3 weeks, so knock on wood.
All right, I'll go on.
All right, with that, we'll move into manifests. So this is the manifest from May 21st, 2025. We have a payroll manifest for $422,924.71. We have the voluntary 403B deductions that was signed for $244,771.14. We have the LSSA dues for $496.58. And then we have 4 accounts payable manifests, one for $28,899.33, another for $201,710.99, a third for $75,991.46, and the final accounts payable for $40,840.33. And that wraps up the manifest that was signed on May 21st. And with that, that closes our public session this evening. We do have some business in non-public this evening as a board under RSA 91A3 matters, or specifically A and C. And with that, I will do a roll call vote to move into non-public.
Well, I'll make a motion for it first.
Motion first.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Shoemaker, second by Ms. Ames. Roll call vote. Mr. Shoemaker?
Aye.
I am an aye. Ms. Ames?
Aye.
And Mr. Rubin?
Aye.
That carries 4-0. We are now in non-public. Thank you very much. Have a great